Good afternoon, everybody, and a very warm welcome to you all for this, the APAC regional final of the Real Race Super Trofeo Esports, the esports series by Lamborghini, headed up by myself, Paul Jeffrey, and that man next to me, the returning Mr. Chaz Draycott.
Hello indeed, Paul. Fantastic to be back once again for another one of these amazing finals. In terms of all the other regions that we've covered so far throughout this global competition, it has been very, very exciting, real good entertainment, and to be honest, a lot of the time we've barely known where to look as well. And with so much on the line, really adds to the whole entertainment factor of this championship, this competition. I'm very excited to be back and looking forward to getting this next region ticked off the list.
Yep, absolutely. So this is, of course, the regional finals for the APAC region. There's been a hot stint competition. From that, we've decided which are the 24 fastest drivers in the region, and then they're coming here today for a live broadcast, 2 races, 2 30-minute events where points will pay prizes at the end of the competition and will crown a champion. And Chaz, if our time in the world of Lamborghini is anything to go by, absolutely anybody could win this.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, even when you look at the numbers of the seeds of the drivers, you know, we've seen that often the driver numbers, for those of you that might not know, will be relative to their hot stint positions by the end. So number 1 was the fastest in the hot stint competition, and 24 was the slowest of these 24. There was so many of them that were involved. So by no means does number 24 mean you are slow as such, because they are very, very fast drivers, all of them. But we've seen in the past, you know, drivers with these double-digit numbers and 20-plus still winning races and still being right at the front of the pack. We've seen the number 1 drivers as well dropping right down and having a difficult time of it. You know, on the night, things can be so different to how they went in the actual hot stint competition. But let's have a look at the drivers, shall we, Paul, and see who we've got coming up in this race that's going to be on our screen.
Yep, so anybody familiar with the world of esports will recognise names such as Zachary Smith and Pritiv Suzuka. Racers in SRO Esports Asia and are very competitive indeed. In fact, they've raced just before we came online for this broadcast. But then we've also got drivers like Chris Sang, another incredibly competitive driver, and then Sungin Park, a new name perhaps from Korea to many of you watching this broadcast. Ben Sharman, another one of the Australian drivers that we expect to be pretty strong when qualification comes to a conclusion in a few moments' time. Kin Long Lee as well, another driver that's incredibly competitive in absolutely anything. And the beautiful thing is, Chaz, which is the reason why we love series like The Real Race, we've got a mix of drivers that you all recognise, drivers that have been very competitive in other championships, and then completely new names and drivers that have qualified and are looking to make their mark in this championship here today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the wondrous things about sim racing in general. You know, when you go into a privately hosted league or a little championship, or even do what's known as official races on certain sims, you know, you never know who you're going to come up against. And the brilliant bit about it is that not everybody has heard of everybody else. So there's always an unknown factor. There's always drivers that you think, I wonder what they're like in this car, and I wonder how well they know this circuit. You know, we always get that mixture of people that have got a lot of experience in certain cars and other drivers that have never been in them before or not spent as much time in them, but just clicked with it straight away. And again, it's that unknown factor that brings us so much entertainment. And I mean, the entertainment side is going to be potentially the weather here. I mean, the B-roll we've got here shows a very, very wet Suzuka at the moment. If it's anything like that out on circuit, then yeah, it's going to be certainly an exciting one to keep an eye on, especially with so much on the line as well. But yeah, I'm really buzzing to be back here. And what a circuit to be at as well, Paul. I mean, I was recently racing on a different sim around Suzuka, and I always forget, 1, how long a lap is here in cars like this, but 2, just how mighty difficult this place is. We're going to go round, though, on a hot lap, I've heard, Paul, so we're going to get a fantastic VIP look at how this circuit is to drive, aren't we?
Riding on board with Automobili Lamborghini eSport team driver David Tunitsa at perhaps one of the finest circuits in the world, Suzuka. As we approach turn 1, maximum commitment through the corner, into 4th gear, drop another into 3rd for the second part of the corner. Here we can use the maximum width of the racetrack to our advantage. There we go, over the rumble strip and up into the famous snake. As we wind uphill, you've got to be committed, you've got to be precise through this section of corners. Stay away from the curbs, keep the car nicely balanced on the tarmac to make sure you can commit the maximum speed possible. The long, never-ending right-hander. A little correction on the steering wheel there before we go through this sweeping left-hand corner. Run the car to the outside of the corner. Very dangerous part of the racetrack here at Suzuka. And then we nip it back to the inside for the run up into the double Degner corner. Maximum commitment in T1 and hard on the brakes into the second portion of this corner segment. Use the rumble strip once again under the flyover and accelerate down now into the hairpin. Brake the car in a straight line. Slam through the gears. Make sure we don't miss the apex to the inside. Then slingshot through for one of the fastest sections of this course. We accelerate all the way through this piece of the Suzuka Grand Prix circuit. Keep the car to the minimum steering angle as is possible for the run down into the famed spoon curve. Again, hard on the brakes. Again, commit to the apex early. Accelerate through the corner. Then a second stab of the brakes. Get the car rotated for another acceleration down the long final straight. Use the curb to the outside line, and this is coming up to be one of the fastest and most exciting corners of the Suzuka Grand Prix circuit and anywhere in the world of motor racing. Brace yourself firmly behind the wheel. Brake, drop a gear. Use the curb to the inside. Run the car all the way out to the outside of the racetrack, and then immediately get back to the other side of the circuit for a hard brake into the chicane. Be greedy with those curbs. Make sure the car is balanced. Maximum acceleration to the line for a lap of the Suzuka Grand Prix circuit in Japan in Assetto Corsa Competizione, the Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo.
A fantastic lap there by Davidson. It's so much so it's taken my breath away, taken the words out of my mouth. But one of the main things about this circuit here, Paul, that we saw in that lap that you've really got to think about is you have to be so close to the edge of the circuit all of the time. And Suzuka is still a very old school track. You know, there's not all of the runoff in the world here. You can't take the mick with track limits. So drivers have to get really close to the edge and push their luck, don't they? With those white lines, with the grass, even with the curbs as well, the painted areas of the circuit. This is not an easy place to go racing at all, Suzuka, and I love watching drivers try and overcome that challenge.
Yeah, there's a lot to be won or lost at Suzuka, and there's also a lot to be won at home. What's this? I hear you say. Well, we have opportunities to win prizes. You'll see a QR code on your screen right now. That QR code will also reappear during the course of the race. Scan it, register. It's free. And why must you do that? Because you could win either 300 or 150 euros worth of vouchers to spend on the Lamborghini store. The more times that you scan to win, you'll go into a prize draw, the more chance you have of winning a VIP experience day at the Lamborghini factory and museum for a behind-the-scenes look and access to the world of Lamborghini. It costs absolutely nothing apart from a few moments of your time. So if you don't have a chance now, don't worry. It will pop back up again during the course of the race. Scan that code and you could be in with a shot of winning, Chaz. And it's a great opportunity for the fans to not only enjoy what we hope is going to be an entertaining broadcast, but also get some goodies for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not only do they get the entertainment factor out of this, but yeah, you can also get some prizes out of it. I think we've both said it before as well that, you know, if us two weren't commentating on this, I'd love to be tuning in anyway and scanning that QR code as many times as possible. So yeah, it's a great incentive as well to give more back to the fans of the sport as well, because, you know, there will be a lot of people that even if they've taken part in this and in the hot laps and not quite got to this point, they'll still be intrigued to see who gets through, see who does well in this tournament and just see how it all concludes and goes on without them. And even if they tune in, you know, they still have a chance of winning as well. It's an absolutely excellent thing to add to this massive package of a broadcast that we've got with so much of a, you know, so much of a wonderful competition behind it all. It's really, really positive and very wholesome, I think it's nice to say.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great initiative by Lamborghini and by AK Esports that put this thing together for us all to enjoy. And it is raining in Suzuka, which is not an unusual occurrence in this part of the world. And qualifying as we speak is going on. So in a few moments' time, we're going to go and have a look at that qualifying session ahead of what is the first of two races. This is new. This is worth bearing in mind, folks at home. This is not a 160-minute race. We're going to have two 30-minute events. In those races, the drivers will be racing for points. Points will be paid out at the end. Whoever's got the most points will become the champion, win the grand prize, and receive the plaudits of you all at home and Chaz and I in the commentary box. In fact, it's 25 minutes and then 30 minutes, for the racers. So it's a new element for our drivers to overcome, Chaz Draycott, and that spices things up a little bit.
It absolutely does, yes. So not only have you got one race to go at it and the result is the result and that's it, you have to think about the longevity of the two races and the fact that you get a reset in the middle of the evening. That's such an important thing to have as a driver. There's been many sim racing competitions that I've commentated on where a driver will have a great first race, but then they've got to go through the whole mental process of doing it all again. And when you have to go back through the race start, back through the sort of middle stint of a race, managing the car, managing your situation, and then getting to the end again, it's just a completely different mindset that you've got to have. I mean, instead of just having it processed once, it may seem a bit daft to people that, splitting it up would make it harder, but it really does, because you have to go through the motions of each stage of the race. So, yeah, I think it's definitely going to spice up the competition and keep drivers really, really on pins.
And it really is. It's difficult as a driver to do that, isn't it? Because if you have a great race, you can almost become too confident, overconfident in yourself, in your ability, or maybe even just mentally take your foot off the gas thinking, I'm halfway to where I need to be. Yeah. And conversely, if you've had a nightmare in race one, you've got to tally the requirement to score big and catch back up without pushing too hard, wrapping yourself up in yet more drama. And we saw that in the NALA regional final that Chris Savert won last time out. We had one of our young drivers, Jaid Hutchinson, first race in the rain fell, everyone came in for wet tyres. Hutchinson stayed out, took the race victory, dominant race victory. Then in race two, he was in the contention positions before contact eventually dropped him out of the running order. So even if you've done half of the battle, it's not over. And this is a cliche, but it's a cliche worth putting in, Chaz. It's not over until it's over. Fight to the death. Yeah. Otherwise, if you leave anything on the table, 2,400 drivers will snap that away from your hands in a heartbeat.
Yeah, it works both ways quite interestingly, because you've not just got that one chance to get it right and get it there and then, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You've got a second chance if it doesn't work the first time round, but if it goes well the first time round, you've then got to do it again for the second one. So it does go both ways, and it really is a big mental battle for this evening. And at a circuit like Suzuka as well, like I just mentioned before, it's not a track where you can push too hard. It's one that really doesn't reward over-exuberant driving. It will punish you massively. I mean, it may seem like a strange comparison, but whenever I think of these sort of more savage race circuits like this, I always think of our very own Alton Park or Brands Hatch here in the UK, older school circuits that it's literally just white line and grass and there's a wall only 8 feet away. There's barely any distance to those barriers and your race can be over in them before you even know it.
And the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Huracan Evo 2 that we're racing in doesn't have the grip, doesn't have the compliance of a GT3 car, which a lot of these drivers have got their bulk of their experience in. That's the most popular category within ACC, which is one of the most popular simulations. So you're battling with natural understeer, a natural propensity for the car to want to snap out on you compared to what you're used to. So it's a mental reset anyway. But as you say, in a circuit where it's not Paul Ricard, where you've got acres of space, make a mistake and it all goes very, very wrong indeed. But let's take a look then. Qualifying's over. Let's take a look at the starting grid. Luca Giacomini is the man on pole position. Kin Long Lee, fresh off of SRO Asia Esports duty in second place. Zachary Smith will join him. Position 3, another driver from Australia, very competitive. Pak Hu Wong will line up in 4th position. In 5th, rocking car number 17 is Takuma Aoki. Alongside him, Jeff Newton rounds out our top 6 drivers. Yusuke Miura is 7th car, number 16. He has number 11 for company down there in Akut Arnamit in 8th place. 9th is Sengon Park, and alongside him is Tinesh Damo. 11th position, Javier Lee. Alongside is Harry Krapanand. In 13th, this is going to be the hardest one to pronounce, and I struggled with this one. We're saying that is... Oh, come on, Chaz, help me out. In 13th position...
Patipon Satyanarun.
Thank you very much. With Jacob Trainer in 14th. 15th place, Joseph Morgan alongside Chris Sang in position 16th. Sai Sudaka in 17th ahead of Ayman Hakim bin Abbas. Ben Sherman is 19th. Ivan Sanchez rounds out the 20 cars. 4 drivers missing in this grand final. Sanchez, car number 5, is the last man on the grid. Does 20 cars make it an easier prospect for these drivers, Chaz Draycott?
No.
Exactly.
Not one bit. I mean, at the end of the day, you're still up against 20 of the fastest drivers that you will meet on the service. You know, it's really, really cool to have them all together. And the best bit about it is they're in equal machinery as well. You know, there's no complaining about balance of performance or anything like that. You know, the drivers are all in the same cars. They sure have to think about their setups and so on, but that is all they have to think about.
And that is why we love monobrand racing. This is just down to the 20 people that are lining up on this server to go racing twice here this afternoon, this morning, this evening, wherever you are in the world. And at the end of it, there'll be a champion, and that's the driver that will represent the Automobili Lamborghini esports team in their region. Small matter, though, of a 30-minute race to comprehend for now. And on pole position, Luca Giacomin has the prime seats in that number 3 machine. But it's no small feat getting off the line on through these first section of corners with 19 other hungry drivers behind you.
No, absolutely not. And without sort of trying to set too much of a scene here, Kim Long Lee in that silver number 2 machine behind him is in the car that I think out of all the races we've commentated on in this competition, that silver and yellow number 2 machine always seems to be the car that's right near the front of the order and seems to be one of the most promising machines. Not that the car is any different to anyone else, but it just always seems to be driver number 2. But we actually do have a good mix of drivers up there because cars 1, 2 and 3, the first, second and third fastest in the heats, in the hot lap sessions, they are all in the top 4. But then behind them we have Takuma Aoki, we have Jeff Newton, Yusuke Miura. We've got those 3 inside the top 10 as cars 17, 13, 16, 11. I mean, look at Thinesh Damo in 10th place, car 21. Comes back to the point I made earlier on that just because they have a higher number on the car and they didn't do as fast a lap in the actual hot lap sessions as the other drivers around them, doesn't mean necessarily that they can't pull it out of the bag here on the night. So yeah, very exciting prospect here that these drivers can make this an interesting race with those numbers alone based on their sort of seeding positions.
And as we've seen before, Chaz, in a multitude of different championships around the world at all different levels, going into a hot stint competition where you've got to deliver a time to qualify is an important and difficult skill.
Yeah.
The pressure of a race day, a race broadcast, limited qualification time, limited racing time, only one opportunity or 2, as the case is this evening, to go forth and take the points you need, is a very different prospect altogether. Those who are strong at one aspect aren't necessarily stronger at the other. So whoever can deliver now, here and now, at this moment in time, are the ones that are going to take the rewards. Everything that's happened to this point is absolutely academic.
Yeah, 100% it is. Yeah, all you've done is it's like having heats in karting. You know, all you do is determine the grid for the final each time. You just keep shaking the grid order up. It's got one of those savage elements to it that you are just going to have a winner at the end of this. You know, second place is going to be the same as 19th by the end of the evening, and that is one, very, very savage indeed, but also keeps it exciting and entertaining for us because you literally have one winner and everybody else is not a winner. And you could all be a winner, of course, if you scan the little QR code on the right-hand side of your screen there. Don't forget you can win yourselves €300 or €150 voucher to spend at the Lamborghini store online. And if you do enter throughout the competition, there is a final draw at the end of the competition, which you will be entered for a VIP tour of the Lamborghini facilities, and you will get a behind-the-scenes look at how it all ticks and how it all works. So I'm not going to ask the question here, Paul, of any predictions, because, again, that unknown factor is what keeps this so amazing for us. We really have no idea whether someone is further down the order than they should be and could come flying through the pack here. There's so much to think about as this race goes on. I think I'm just going to shut my eyes and hold my breath, because I think some of the drivers might have to as well.
Yep, it is win it or bin it time now as the first race of the evening in the APAC regional final for the Lamborghini, the real race, Super Trofeo Esports winds its way through the final kink. All 20 drivers will be looking to the gantry on the start-finish light for those lights to extinguish and for racing to begin for the first time today. Luca Giacomini is the man on pole position from Kin Long Lee alongside him in the silver machine. The lights are red on the timing gantry. In a few moments' time, we will be go for the APAC regional final of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo, the real race esports series. Green flag waves. Giacomini drives to the outside line, tries to cut the door off, but Kinlong Lee has the overlap into T1, has the position, takes it away from Giacomini in second place. In third position, Zachary Smith jockeying for some racetrack to hold on to the bottom step of the podium. Pak Ho Wong in fourth position, as well as they were at the front of the field. Somebody hits the barriers though, Chaz, in the background. One car already out of contention.
Yeah, I think cars 8 and 5 were involved in some drama there. Chris Sang and Ivan Sanchez were involved in that. But fantastic start by Giacomin around the outside of Lee. Wonderful, wonderful move. Sorry, it was Lee around the outside of Giacomin, wasn't it? Sorry. And then Wong has actually moved himself up to third position as well and made a really good start there to get ahead of Zachary Smith. We have here Javier Lai in the real thick of it in the middle of the pack. This absolute rainbow of Lamborghinis flying down towards the first Degner and then hard on the brakes into the second. Way out wide on the exit. Again, that's one of the pinch points of the circuit where if you do overdo it on the AstroTurf or on the curb on the exit, you can spin up the rears of these Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2 cars. He has a lovely look down the inside there of Aaron Mitt right in front of him. But out Aaron Mitt, just covering him off slightly as they run down towards Spoon Curve. This is one of the main parts of the circuit as well, Paul, where people are going to try and set up those moves, aren't they? Swoop around the outside here to the inside of the next corner, but it's a real compromise if you go down the inside as car 20 is around.
Yeah, so on the drama there at the back end of the circuit, Javier Lai that we're still looking at in 10th position, still trying to find a way past Arnamit, still trying to find a way further into the top 10. The higher you get, the more points you get. The more points you get, the closer you are to your end result. But Javier Lai now coming into 130R. This is one line through this corner, but he'll be looking to find a way side by side into the chicane, if at all possible. Line not quite close enough on this attack. Arnamit survives for a further lap. Further up, Pak Hung Wo in third position. Pak Hung Wo holding onto the car on corner exit through the chicane. Zachary Smith drops down a fourth. He'll be frustrated with that one, but he's still in a good position to move forward. Aoki and Miura in the back of your shot as well, running down into T1. Miura to the inside, drops to the outside again. Has the line, has the position, but everybody now has got their elbows out, Chaz. It's only a 30-minute race. You need to move now, or you're going to get bogged down in traffic.
Yeah, much different body language to what we saw in previous competitions with the hour-long races that all added together to give us the 16 drivers in the previous European rounds of this sort of competition. But this is now the time where drivers need to get moves done early on because the field is closer together. It's all more compact. So there's not as much work to do from going from one driver to the next. If you're quicker than the guy in front of you, you need to just shimmy on by as quickly as possible and then go chasing as soon as you can. The motion blur on Assetto Corsa Competizione looking beautiful there as the drivers swoop their way around the Degners. We've got this quartet at the moment, this barbershop quartet of Kim Long Lee, Luca Giacomin, Pak Ho Wong and Zachary Smith as the first four drivers, cars 2, 3, 1 and 6. And then a bit of a gap back to Takuma Aoki, who's trying to hold on to that top 5 spot at this moment in time. But the position you've got to think about right now is the one at the very front here because it sets you up for a much easier race too if you can get this early win. That's not saying it's easy, but it's a little bit easier as Pak Ho Wong continues to try and take second place away from Giacomin.
Yeah, a good game of high-speed chess at the front of the field at this moment in time. Everybody just taking a moment to breathe, let the race come to them, let the race settle down a little bit and understand exactly where you are, what risks you want to take, what opportunities you want to grasp. But currently, Kin Long Lee is the man who is our race leader. Giacomin, second position from Wong, and then Zachary Smith dropping off the back a little bit squirrely over the curbs on the exit of 130R. He'll recover that one nice and quickly, I am sure, but Zachary Smith, the Australian driver, doesn't want to be making too many of those mistakes for fear of becoming detached from this leading trio of cars. Crossing the line now, 2 minute 3.7 for Kin Long Lee, 2 minute 3.5 for Giacomin, 2 minute 3.5 for Wong, and then Smith 4.205, courtesy of that bit of drama from the conclusion of the previous lap.
Yeah, fantastic stuff though to begin this race. Great action up and down the field, but now this quartet that I mentioned has become a little trio And we have two drivers showing us having the fastest lap because they did identical lap times to the nearest thousandth of a second last time round. A 2:03.512 for Jacomin and Wong. That is absolutely remarkable stuff. We've also got two purple-ish magenta cars right with each other in the middle of the pack as well here. We've still got Aranmit ahead of Lai. These two are in a bit of a quintet right now with, I believe it's Park at the front of it. No, it's actually Newton that's leading this lot. And they're all trying to just... I suppose at this point, Paul, they're all that good and that quick that you have to just wait for somebody else to make a mistake, don't you? You have to just be patient about the fact that they're pushing so close to the limits all of the time that they just overstep it by that 1% and ruin it for themselves, because you don't want to risk too much in throwing it down the inside. I say that, though, and a lovely move there by Lai. Tries to cut back and get a run on the exit of the hairpin. Doesn't work for him this time round, but you can see that he's trying to set that up lap after lap, and Aranmit knows that he's there, and he's not worrying about what's in his mirrors right now. He's just trying to get on with moving forward. But, oh, no, never mind that. He's moving sideways, not forward. He's sideways, and through Spoon Curve. Well, he's not the only one that goes off, it seems like, in sympathy. Others went off as well, and I think Lai is going to let him back through there. He's moving over to the right-hand side of the circuit. That's good sportsmanship, that, Paul. We love to see that. He might lose more places as a result, but that's really good sportsmanship, that. Love to see it.
Yeah, really nice. And Morgan's buying into this one as well. So Morgan took advantage, found a place, and finds a place packed Lai as well. So very close, side by side through 130R. Lai has to go the long way around the corner. He gets back on the racetrack, but one small mistake, massive consequences for Lai. He's all the way outside of the top 10 now. Aranmit holding on to that 8th position. Morgan just behind, as well as we're looking at Sengin Park in 6th place. He's on the attack. Can he find a way to throw the car down the inside of Newton? Not in T1, you can't. Too fast. Not enough braking speed into that corner. Miura that we're looking at in 15th place. So some dramas have befallen car number 16 as well, as he's struggling to make his way through this tightly contested field, as Chris Sang has a drive-through penalty in 13th position. That's the end of his day, unfortunately.
A lot of damage to the front of Yasuke's car as well. I think they will be doing something wrong, though, if Miura doesn't win a Lamborghini race, to be honest with you. It would be a real shame not to see that pun be able to be used more. But, yeah, obviously we're not here for the puns. We're here for the genuine competition of this. And Yasuke Miura had a lot of damage on the front of his car. So, fingers crossed it's only cosmetic and it just looks worse than it is. But right now it seems that being that far down the order, he's struggling. We've got another driver dropping way down the order as well, actually. There was a big drop, I think, for Ayman Hakim bin Abbas. I'm not sure whether that was the timing tower playing tricks on me or whether they all moved, but certainly there was a bit of movement, and a drive-through penalty for Chris Sang in 13th, now moving up into 11th place as of the most recent sector. But still, plenty of movement in the midfield as everyone fights, but at the front, it's all peace, isn't it, really? With the top three all sort of not working together, but they're not really disturbing each other much, are they, in these first few laps?
Not at all, but this is a man that would desperately like to be involved in that sort of top 3, top 4 battle. Sengwin Park in 6th position, still trying to find a way past Newton ahead. Still no opportunities. The racing line here is so precise at Suzuka. If you're a cute defender, then you've got a good opportunity to hold on to that position. And Park, he fancies trying to find a way past the purple Lamborghini in front, but there is just no space. There's nothing that he can fit the car along the inside. Monstering the curbs like that for the number 7 won't help his cause, but he's got a good run now through the chicane. Let's have a look as we drag our way all the way along the start-finish straight for the run into the T1, T2, almost as one here at Suzuka. It's more a deceleration zone is the first corner for the hard brake into the second part of the turn as Chris Sang goes for his drive-through penalty. He likes to serve that one almost straight away, but that's going to drop him all the way to the back of those that are running. And now Park is following through the stake. It's only a single line here up through the stake into the next section of corners. So Park, where's the best chance, Chaz? Where are you going to pull this one off? He's got a little bit more pace, but not enough to get alongside. Where's your premium position to go and take a look?
I think one of the main things is to look into the hairpin. You can sort of set it up a few corners back. If you really do scare somebody enough in the Degners and just take a look down the inside, get really close on the brakes, you can unsettle them on the exit of there, get a decent run into the hairpin, and then if you're brave enough, you can really send it down the inside. It may compromise the pair of you a lot, but it's still that individual position that will matter so much. It's the extra points in a competition like this, as we now see Sai Prithvi Sudhakar trying very, very hard indeed in this massive train of cars. It's so lively, isn't it? Just wriggling around like a massive Lamborghini caterpillar out of the Degners. The car's so interesting to watch because it's its own specification of car, this. It's not a GT3 car, which is absolutely glued to the road. They have a bit of a wiggle here and there, but these sort of individual spec cars move around a lot. They show lots of body language, don't they? They're very exciting because of the way that you can communicate with just the visuals of this car and how it's behaving, and well, especially in the case of Ben Sharman, who's a little bit wide in the background there. The supercar just stuck to the back of the line, Damo in front of him, watching this scrap unfold. Might be able to get an opportunity on the exit once they're the army after the chicane.
Yeah, Darno's a man under pressure at this moment of time, line looking one way, and then when he's looking behind, he's watching Reese, the opportunity presents himself right on board now. Our breakdown into the chicane, there we go. Darno looks very good in the chicane, Darno looks like a centre, as well. So once we're on the stage, it's driver that you're looking for. Let your rival make a mistake and walk through the door that is being left open as Miura comes down to lay down for a 10-second penalty against his name. I think that's the last we'll see of him. So the race of this afternoon's activity here at the wheel race, Suzuka Trofeo Esports, APAC Regional.
Suzuka was very brave there actually to stay down the inside of Darmo, because despite Darmo running wide out and find the corner, because it was a wider line, he was able to carry a bit more speed and get a slingshot down the start with his straight. So he was able to stay with him into turn 1 and to back out of it around the outside. Here's Satyanaran in car number 9 trying to chase down the trainer, and Sharman who made that mistake a little bit earlier on actually. Set his rhythm a little bit with the mistake through the spoon curve. I think actually, is that the trainer in front of him? Sorry, Sharman directly in front of him. Well, no, it's not. I do apologise. It's the number 19 machine still. A similar colour. Sharman might be just settled into this pack a little bit more now, because you do make one mistake in a race like this, Paul, and it'll just upset your rhythm massively, won't it? You spend a bit of time trying to get back into said rhythm. We saw it from Aranmit before. He had that incident. Sure, he got let back through by Lai, but then the next couple of corners, he was a bit late on the brakes. The car didn't quite look as confident on the exit. It's just about getting back into a rhythm mentally, isn't it? We have mentioned the mental game a lot tonight, but that's because so much rides on it.
Yeah, exactly. It is all about the mental game. It's all about, as you say, a rhythm. These are difficult cars to drive. These are cars that the drivers aren't necessarily as experienced in as they would be a GT3 machine, which is the predominantly used class in ACC. So it's not quite as muscle memory for many of these drivers as it would be in different categories, and that becomes all the more challenging when you've got to take away some of your mental capacity to focus on the physical driving of the car rather than the race itself. It's all the more difficult. Suzuka that we're looking at now, still in 11th position, lies still in 10th ahead. There's a little gap now starting to form between them and the battle pack that is ahead, headed by Morgan and Aranmit in 8th and 9th positions. And remember, we pay points in this series, so you really need to be in those points paying positions in order to give yourself the leg up for the second race of the day. A little bit later on is Jacob Trainer that we're looking at in the number 19, the light grey machine. Gets it all wrong at the start of the snake. That puts him offline pretty much for the entirety of this next section of corners. And now Statanura in behind, really trying to find a way past, but it's a one-line section of corners, that one, Chaz. No way. You've got to hold your temper a little bit and wait for the right opportunity further around the lap.
Yeah, there's a big mix of different sections of this circuit here at Suzuka where there's certain parts you have to be very patient. Just sit behind the driver in front and just count on the fact that you can get into their heads by filling their mirrors. There's other corners where it's a definite opportunity for a send, but still it's a massive compromise on the exit. At the same time, you can see though that right now Satyanaran was trying to follow him too closely and dropped away a little bit before they got to the Degners. The hairpin's like a bit of a reset really, because it is a very driver focused corner. There's so many lines that you can take through there that just sometimes suit other drivers compared to yourself, and you can take a wider line, carry a bit more speed, come off the lock a little bit later, but other times you can keep it in tight, straighten the car up as soon as possible, plant your foot. You just have to be so careful in cars like this with so much horsepower, over 500 horsepower from the 5.2 litre V10s in the back of these Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2 cars. And then you've got to think about the aero as well. There's a lot of visual aero on these cars, but they are a lot more slippery than your average GT3, as we see now. Trainer and Satyanaran side by side again, and Satyanaran gets in front before 130R. I was going to mention this before as well, Paul. Running wide onto that painted section there through 130R, all it takes is just that curb to unsettle the inside of the outer tyre. That right rear wheel, if I can get my words out, spins up. You're going to be having a colossal accident there, but again, these drivers are just right on the edge of adhesion, aren't they? They're right on the limit.
Yeah, it's a massive, massive risk factor for the drivers, and they'll have done some laps around here. They'll be aware of where the limit is, but again, it's part of the mental game of a driver's makeup, isn't it? You've got to make a decision. Am I willing to take that risk? Somebody who's taking a risk here is Ben Sharman, trying to stay ahead of the number 5. Sharman, side by side in the grey machine, has the outside line with side by side through the snake. It's a dangerous part of the racetrack, a difficult part of the racetrack to continue this kind of battle, but the 5 tries to stay at the inside, holds that position. Good racecraft from Sharman to give the racing room away. He'll take the advantage again for this long sweeping left-hander. He'll hope to get the car in the front position, but he doesn't actually, so that's a great overtake. So Sharman mugged completely for the run-up into the first Degner. Fantastic overtake there by the number 5, and Ben Sharman drops yet another position. So Satyanaran is the next man on the list to try and find a way past.
I'm not sure that should have been on, really, to be honest, Paul,
No.
because that's Sanchez in 20th place that's mugged him off, to quote you there. I'm not really sure he should be doing that, because,
Mate,
I mean...
I'm glad you've answered that one. I saw number 5 and thought, well, I can't see who number 5 is on the timing screen, so I'll not reference a name. So if that's Sanchez, you're right, to lap down...
Yeah, there's blue flags. There's blue flags waving as they come to Spoon Curve. That's not for anybody behind Sharman. That's not for Sharman either, to say get out of the way. But that was an unlapping manoeuvre, not even an overtake that by Sanchez. Sure, he's flying. I mean, he's absolutely on a mission now. He's left Sharman behind. But is that because he's on fresher rubber? Has he been into the pits or something? There's 2 laps between 18th Miura and then Krupanen. And then Sanchez is straight on, goes Sharman. Oh, he's gone that wide. He's gone into the dirt as well, and it slows the car down here on a set of Corsa Competizione, unlike it does in other sims. And, well, that's not paid off dividends at all for him. And now Trainer and Satyanaran continue on without Sharman. And, well, he's going to be gutted by that one. That's a lap from hell, that, for Sharman, isn't it? Getting absolutely done over by a car unlapping itself, which probably shouldn't have been unlapping itself. And then an incident off at 130R. Not a good few minutes, that, for Sharman, unfortunately.
Not at all, but very fortunate for Ben that the car didn't make contact with the barrier, so he will be able to continue, but he's lost, as you say, a lot of ground indeed. Park still continuing to fight with Newton, in 5th and 6th position, but Park now gets a very nice run on the purple Lamborghini ahead. Will he be able to find enough real estate? Uses the grass and more for the run down into the first Degner, manages to keep the car on the racetrack. Good job to get that car slowed down again, sideways through the second Degner for the run down now into the hairpin. So Park, certainly plenty of flair behind the wheel, plenty of aggression. He's keen to get moving, but that number 7 needs to rein it in a little bit. 6th position is not as good as 5th, but it's a damn sight better than facing the barriers and watching the field overtake you as you recover. So Park, very aggressive. Only 12 minutes left on the clock. I think he needs to be a little bit calmer, a little bit more composed, and pick his battles wisely in this fight with Newton ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. You just need to pick your battles. That's the absolute right phrase here, Paul, because not only have we got the 2 races here tonight, but with the points on offer instead of just a finishing position. I say just a finishing position, but in previous competitions it was either you finish in a certain place that gets you through or you don't. They're not fighting for specific positions here, because the 1 or 2 points that he may gain here from going up into 5th place might be what changes things after the second race. You know, you need to just bank those points early, I think, over the course of an evening like this. So, yeah, Sungin Park needs to just be careful when he tries to go for this move. It's clear that he wants to get through, but again, you just need to now wind it back up, get that gap closed down again to Newton, and just think bigger picture here. That's something that the drivers always need to be reminded of. And you often hear that they have race engineers and sort of crew chiefs, don't they, when they're racing at this sort of level. And it's just for those sort of mental reminders of, no, just rein it in a bit, mate. Just chill out. You know, you don't have to get through past him. Just think points. Think points.
Yeah, exactly. Take the minimal risk. But we can see that Park has got a significant pace advantage, it seems, at this stage. It's closed back up again as we're looking at Jacob Trainer now. Car number 19, track position number 14. Satyanarim is the man just ahead of him in the blue, the minty coloured, bluey green Lamborghini. Just behind for company as well is Bin Abbas, trying to not finding a way past yet, but slowly but surely is Akeem Bin Abbas closing that gap, and it's been a good drive actually. He's 15th position at this moment in time. He's gained a couple courtesy of people suffering penalties and retirements, but so far staying out of trouble, working his way through the field, building that experience bank of knowledge. Maybe not necessarily for honours in the competition this year, but the more you race, the more you learn. The more you learn, the stronger you become. As Trainer thinks about going defensive into the hairpin, leaves the door open, but not enough room on this occasion for the 23 to sneak on by.
No, absolutely, and you're right, it has been a really good drive so far by Bin Abbas, but the problem being that, in the real world, track time is hard to come by, because you have the logistics of going there and getting the car there and having the right people around you at the right time, having the weather on side. Beautiful thing about sim racing is that you can go and, obviously subject to having a rig at home, you can go and race whenever you want, at whatever circuit around the world, in whatever car you want as well, subject to DLC and other things. But it's a lot easier, it's a lot more accessible to be able to test these cars and put more track time in. People say how important it is all of the time in the real world, and it's just the same in the sim. You have to get used to how certain cars behave, and especially when drivers switch from one type of car to the next. A lot of drivers that race on a set of Corsa Competizione, like these guys, they'll mainly drive the GT3 cars, because that was, at the end of the day, it's based on the GT World Challenge. It's the official game of it, and they're the cars that are the sort of flagship of it. So cars like this are an addition to that, and an extra hidden little corner of motorsport that people really need to see, because these cars are so exciting to watch just on their own. And then, of course, we get the beautiful racing that these drivers have. So just making sure that you get as much time in as possible. That's what Bin Abbas is going to treat this as now at the end of the day. He's still going to get a couple of points on the board, but he's just using it as a live and very intense practice session, I like to think, Paul. There's a bit of a wobble there from Trainer.
So cars 10 and 9 on lap 4, a 5-second time penalty to car number 9 for causing a collision. Live stewards, of course, in this one, as Jacob Trainer gets it all wrong through the snake, manages to gather the car back together again very quickly indeed, but not quick enough to close the door. So Bin Abbas makes another 3 overtake in a 14th position. Jacob Trainer on the ragged edge drops down into 15th place. Javier Lai in 9th that we're looking at now. He's trying to find a way past Morgan ahead. Suzuka following through as well, so they've all moved at 1. Who's that in the expense of? That is I'm not sure exactly who's dropped further down the running order, but that's a good result for these drivers, all moving up well inside the top 10 at this moment in time. Javier Lai in car number 10, position number 9, the bright purple pink machine, hard on the chase of Morgan in front, and Suzuka a little bit, reserved, maybe I would say, his performance compared to what I was expecting. He's a well-known name in the Asian esports racing world, but he's currently holding on to that 10th position in this opening race.
I think it was Dinesh Darmo, actually, because Darmo was about 4 seconds slower in the first sector. No, he wasn't, apologies. No, I can't figure out actually who it is. I was looking at the gap then instead of the sectors, just FYI. But I'm trying to figure out who was slower in that first sector. I thought Darmo had dropped down, though, because I thought he was way up there inside the top 10 earlier on. I may have been mistaken, though. So, yeah, nothing obvious that I can see from the timing screen, Paul. So we'll have to let that one remain a mystery for a little bit, I'm afraid, until one of us suddenly clicks and jumps up out of our seat. But there's a lot going on in this race as we head into the last section of it, with 6.5 minutes on the clock, and that's only a couple of laps here at Suzuka. Let's not forget how long a lap is here. It's over 2 minutes as they all push very hard, and the 21 machine of Darmo, previously mentioned, runs wide at turn number 2. Up the snake they go once again, and Satyanaran all over the back of him, trying to cut this way, then that way. You've got to really set yourself up for here, but it's just not a part of the circuit where you want to try and make a move. As again running wide is Darmo. It's almost like he's opening the door saying, go on, I dare you, like he set a trap behind the door or something. And now round the outside goes Satyanaran, but he's overdone it. The car breaks away, he saves it, goes one way then the other on the grass. And well, there is the trap that was set, very much so, by Darmo. You try and go around the outside there, you're going to lose places.
Exactly, and that is the problem with the snake that we mentioned. It's very rare that you successfully go too wide contact. Xavier Lee makes heavy contact with the side of Morgan. Secondary pushes Morgan's car back in a straight line again. Lee decides to keep off of the throttle just to avoid any kind of incident with the stewards, allows everybody back past. He knows that was his mistake. Down into the hairpin, just a little bit greedy on the brakes, but now almost immediately Lee looks to the inside. Can he find a way past the 11? The 11 runs very, very wide indeed. Aramit just completely off of the racetrack there. That allows a way past. Park now as well, trying to find a way past. Everything's going a little bit crazy now as we run into the final 5 minutes of this race. Opportunities are rapidly reducing for these drivers to make their mark in this opening race of the day here at the real race Super Trofeo Esports Lamborghini's mono-brand esport competition. Season number 4 coming to its conclusion for the APAC regional final, and we are seeing plenty of drama as Hakim bin Habas once again in the thick of it, 13th position, but Chaz on the track for Darmo ahead, I think it is, who seems to be under pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. Pressure being applied in many, many ways still throughout the field just for these points to add up over the course of the night. That's the thing. There's more to fight for these sort of, let's not call them lower positions, but you know what I mean. The positions outside of the top 3, let's say, as now Ayman Hakim bin Abbas looking down the inside of Darmo yet again. Darmo's almost backed out of that one. It's like he knows that he can't defend it through there. He doesn't want to upset the rhythm that much, and yeah, he's definitely having a problem here of some sort. Whether he's got a bit of damage to the car or whether the tyres have just been absolutely shredded, I'm not sure, but especially up this snake section of the circuit, the longer sweeping corners, just doesn't seem to be able to get the car pointing where he wants, and even on the exit of the corner then, he's just got nothing. Here's Sai Prithvi Sudhakar into Degner 2 with Morgan just in front, kicks the back end out slightly. This battle reignited once again after that contact a lap ago. It's good to see that Morgan and Lai have both been able to continue on without any negative effect. Not sure if there's any penalties or anything through to come through for them, I should say. But right now Sudhakar is the one that's benefited from that and gained 1 place so far. Can he get another one from Morgan? Because despite being the one on the receiving end of that contact and not being the one causing it, he's still going to be slightly rattled for a little bit. As there we go. There's an official warning to car number 7, actually, who's had an incident with car number 20, apparently, on lap 11. So that's Krupanand and Park, who are a long way apart. So I'm not sure if that was the right number or not there. But still, if they've managed that, I'd say it's a good effort more than anything. But still, Morgan, he's going to be checking his mirrors now because he's not got a car immediately in front of him, as with 2 laps to go, I imagine. Kinlong Lee, well, he's led this from the very beginning here, Paul, and it's a solid drive for this number 2 machine. I hate to say I told you so, though, so I'm not going to.
But if Kinlong Lee, I will hope he has set the resolution of his rear view mirror in-game very, very high indeed. Otherwise, he will not be able to see the drivers behind, such as being the composed dominance of our current race leader. 2 minutes 32 seconds left on the clock. There's still opportunity for things to go very wrong indeed, but Kinlong Lee seems to have it all under control at the front of the field ahead of Giacomin in second, Wong in third, and Zachary Smith, after an early challenge in the opening few corners, fading slightly in 6th position, just ahead of Jeff Newton, and then Park, that we're looking at here, who for pretty much 30 minutes solid has looked to the back of that number 13 Lamborghini without any opportunity to find a way past. And that's going to be frustrating for Park, isn't it? Because he can see potential points as he does rally drifting through the second Degner, manages to control the car nicely, though. Frustrating for Park because you know coming into this one, you cannot afford to give away cheap points to your rivals, can you? Because that is such is the level of competition here. Any points that you leave on the table could very well be the difference between success and failure in an hour's time.
Yeah, that's it. I think with this first race of the night, it's set the standard as to who's on the pace on the evening and who you can battle with and who maybe you cannot. You know, some drivers, they do keep almost like a memory bank in their head of who they've come up against on the circuit, who they might have been quicker than in certain sectors and who they were slower than. And taking that knowledge into the second race, we may see people approach certain situations a bit differently. That with the extra pressure of the points being on offer. We've got just over a minute left, and Kinlong Lee is now crossing the line to start the final lap of the race ahead of Giacomin and Wong, who both still share the fastest lap of the race, which is just amazing that no one's actually beaten it further down the line there. It shows how quickly the pace may have dropped off here, but Not by much at all, because they're still very close to said fastest lap by the look of it. But yeah, you can't give away points to people that you know that you're on a similar pace to, especially because you know how difficult it'll be then to grab some points back off them if you need to in the second race. There's so many, it's like a spider web of different potential outcomes for these two races, Paul. But that's what keeps us entertained, and well, it's just great to be a part of it, isn't it? To continue to speculate over all of these, because that's what we do very well as commentators.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the thing. It keeps the drivers on the toes. It becomes a good challenge for the drivers. Kinlon Lee has been incredibly competitive in this opening race, but conditions will change, circumstances will change for race 2, so it's all still very much up in the air for each and every one of the talents, the 20 talents that are taking part in this regional final today as we come through the hairpin for the final time. That gap is reducing slightly to Giacomin behind, but that's more a managed gap than any kind of pressure for Kinlong Lee. And so far, this has been a faultless start to his new campaign.
Yeah, that's it. It's all about getting things off to as good a start as you can, get that confidence into the second race of the night as well. And as Kinlong Lee smoothly operates the spoon curve, I nearly said smooth again then, spoon curve up towards 130R, he's certainly going to be feeling a little sigh of relief when he gets through this next corner, because regardless of how far through a race you are and how far in front you are, 130R is absolutely terrifying in any machine, virtual or real, and regardless of grip. But Kinlong Lee, fantastic job here, Paul, with this first race of the night. Solid job.
Yeah, absolutely outstanding through the chicane for the final time, hard on the gas. He'll be looking to the corner of his screen for that checkered flag waving. In a few moments' time, a wipe of the brow. The checkered flag waves, and it is a race victory in the opening race of the day for Kinlong Lee. That means a lot for the number 2 driver, Giacomin, in second position. Wong crossing the line on the bottom step of the podium. It's only half the job, but it's a great start to the new campaign as Takuma Aoki now that we see in 7th place charges down into the chicane. Park and Newton ended up being resolved in the favour of Newton in 5th position. Park in 6th. Aoki crosses the line just a little bit further back in the brown machine in 7th place.
Yeah, great drive that by our race winner, and some fantastic battles through the order that got resolved just in the end. Morgan there finishing ahead of Suzuka and then Lai. Then we've got Aranmit Bin Abbas and Trainer finishing ahead of Satyanaran. The two of them were coming together very closely towards the end, but then spread out on the final laps. And then Sharman crossing the line there in 16th place as well. A couple of penalties given out over the course of that one as well, though, Paul. So the stewards aren't lying down and letting anything go here. It's certainly very tight in terms of the racing order and even the penalties as well, which can shake things up. And that's it. You know, you've got to be on your best behaviour, haven't you?
And I will say, and this feels like a commentator's curse in waiting, good behaviour from all of our drivers, give or take in that opening race. But as you well know, Chaz, I am a touring car man. In touring car racing, we always say the second race is where things get a little bit crazy. And we have got another qualification and another race coming up to decide this championship. But if you're the likes of Kinlong Lee, you're going to feel pretty good about your world at this moment in time, aren't you? Because that was a very solid opening performance.
Yeah, absolutely. He nailed that from the very get-go. You know, by turn 1, he was already in the race lead. And in a lot of cases, you would have expected that the pole man, Luca Giacomin, could have looked at that and said, right, well, I need to get back past him now. You know, I was on pole. I've got a point to prove. But he just didn't manage to get back up with him. And that confidence from Lee will be completely overwhelming. You can see even in the opening stages there, a couple of drivers just running slightly wide. And it's very easy to fall into too much of a rhythm when you're on the ideal racing line around a track like Suzuka, and when you have to go offline around the edge of the circuit and make adaptations to your racing lines because of the drivers around you, it can be so difficult because it's not something you practice. It's not something that you can practice, is being offline like that and having another car inside. You know, you have to just imagine it in your head and just figure out what the car is doing at the time and just react to it accordingly, I suppose. So the adaptation of that around here has not been easy for drivers, but still, it's been very exciting for us to watch, and I do not envy the guys being behind the wheel right now and having to deal with all this pressure.
Yeah, absolutely, because now's the time where you can take, as a driver, a quick comfort break, take on some more fluids, and then you've got to mentally reset yourself again to go into qualifying, again to go into another very competitive race. We're seeing some highlights on our screen at this moment in time, but another highlight is you could win prizes. There's a QR code will pop on periodically over the course of the broadcast. Make sure you scan that one and you have an opportunity to go and win yourself some prizes. This is the contact between Takuma, Aoki and Park that we saw on the second lap. Light contact and then a heavier secondary impact. Aoki was the man very firmly in the middle of all of that one. If you've got any comments, you've got any queries, any questions for Chaz and I that you wish to ask over the course of this broadcast, drop us a line in the comment section on YouTube and we'll try our best in a momentary lull in activity to answer those as best as we possibly can. Although, Chaz, if race one is anything to go by, lulls in activity are going to be few and far between.
They absolutely are, yes. It's going to be a very exciting, I was going to say conclusion to the evening, but it's still only going to be the second half yet. We're not even there. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to the second race of the evening. I reckon that there's going to be a few drivers that are pushing that little bit harder now because they have to recuperate from what they didn't get out of the first race of the night. So, yeah, very, very exciting time coming up, safe to say, from Suzuka.
And that's a very good point, is this is the opportunity. When you come into the first race, everybody starts on a clean sheet of paper. There's going to be a little bit of tentativeness towards how you go into the race. Are you aggressive? Do you consolidate what you've got? Do you aim for more? Now we've done that opening race. We've got experience of what the racetrack and your rivals and car are like. And we know exactly where we stand in the championship standings. You know if you're in a prime seat, you know if you're struggling, or you know if it's completely out of the question for you and it's just for pride. And that opens up, Chaz, opportunities for drivers. I don't want to say aggression because that's got a negative connotation, but opens up the opportunity for drivers to be more expressive in their racecraft, shall we say.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I mentioned the body language of these cars in the first race. That's something that we're going to be able to see as well. When the drivers are pushing, when they're really wrangling these machines, you are going to be able to tell. You'll see a difference in how the car behaves, how it approaches the curbs, and how they throw themselves at the track limits here as well, and really get close to those edges. They brake later. These dives, these cars really dive down. You know, they've got a right shovel nose on them, don't they? They certainly lean on each corner. And that's part of the art form of racing cars like this. You know, they're not perfectly stiff. They're not perfectly flat all the time because they're a bit more of a heavy, I don't want to say wallowy, because, I mean, they don't wallow at all. They're just stupidly nimble. But you have to concentrate more on the inertia of the car and what corner the weight is leaning over at each moment, don't you?
Yeah, it's more a driver's car, pure and simple. It's, in real life, it's made for young up-and-coming drivers or more experienced or gentleman drivers as well. So there's a wild variety of skills and experiences race these cars in the real-world Super Trofeo Championships throughout the world. And that's replicated beautifully in a simulation. And as we've said before, but it bears repeating, it's a car that, because it's a newer class to ACC and because it's not the main game, so to speak, which is the GT World Challenge Championship, these drivers have got remarkably less experience in competitive action with these cars. You spoke about it, Chaz, during the race about practice and the accessibility. Yeah. Practice is one thing. Doing online races for fun is another. But racing in a competitive esport environment such as this is an entirely different ball game altogether, and it's going to be precious little experience these guys have got. So those who can overcome the challenges that are presented themselves, those who can overcome the pressure, and those who can adapt are going to be the ones that reap the biggest rewards in this one.
Yeah, definitely. You have to be a versatile driver to deal with all outcomes and all situations over the course of a competition or a championship. Yep. One of the main things that these drivers have to realise, though, is that this isn't like a whole year's championship. It's not even just a championship that's a couple of months. You know, this is just today. It's its own little day of racing, and it's a big day for most, of course, but you know what I mean. Just the two races. We're not talking like an 18-round season or even a 10-round season. It's race one and it's race two, and those points are going to be tied in many cases because of how tight it all is. You know, there's so little to give here, so drivers have to be on it lap after lap, take every position they can, and now knowing that there's no extra chance after this, it's going to be belting.
And I think something else that's very much worth bearing in mind, and I'm going to read this for fear of wording it wrong. This is from the regulations. So this is something that we need to think about coming into quali. In the event of a points tie at the end of the regional final ranking, the criteria that will be used to determine which driver is higher in the ranking is as follows. The sum of the times of the two qualifications. The driver with the lowest sum will take precedence. So qualifying times are massively important. What that means is if we're level on points at the end of these two races, we'll look at your quali 1 time and quali 2 time. We'll combine them, and whoever has the quickest between the two at the combined times will be the champion. So you've got to get your skates on in this qualifying as well, because it will come down. It can easily come down to something as tight as that. So every part of the performance today could potentially win or lose you a championship, not just a grid position.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just about the race results either in the end if it comes down to that. You know, it's the whole package of like a race weekend format, you know, qualifying and the races as well. It's your overall pace throughout each section of the race meeting. So, yeah, I'm very intrigued by that. I really do like the idea of that. Yeah. It almost reminds me of, was it about 2005 when the highest formula, let's call it, used to do a aggregate or a sort of combined lap time qualifying. They did some on Friday, some on Saturday. It was the most bizarre
As a fan
thing.
of motor racing, I've managed to banish that from my memory.
Yes. It's
never put it in a box, lock the box, bury it away, never speak of it again.
Oh, we're not going to go too far into this. I really liked it. But I thought, it was, well, I'm a bit odd anyway. But still, it's just the fact that these drivers could be separated by 1,000th at the end of the night. You know, it's just balmy because we do obviously measure these drivers to the nearest 1,000th of a second. You all saw it in that previous race, everybody. There was a tie for the fastest lap of the race because to the nearest 1,000th, two of our drivers were completely identical. And they could be in qualifying after this as well when it all adds up. That's the real amazing prospect we've got before us right now, is that this competition might not just come down to the race results. If we get a tie on the points and we hear about that afterwards, then people have got to start doing the maths. They've got to look at every 1,000th of a second that these drivers were driving to see who comes out on top. And, I mean, it'd be amazing and very, very dramatic if it went that way. I know a lot of the drivers probably aren't hoping that it comes down to that.
Well, I think the likes of Kinlong Lee will have aspirations for putting that car in and around the first couple of rows of the grid and just cementing this with a race victory. But everybody was very clean in the opening few corners, give or take, apart from a couple of dramas further down the running order. Does that, as a driver, fill you almost with a false sense of confidence coming into the second race that you think, okay, I got through the first section nicely, maybe I can afford to be a bit more aggressive? But then you multiply that aggression increase by 20 drivers and all of a sudden you've got a world of pain to deal with. So I fear and I predict that we're going to have some dramas in the opening couple of corners in this next race, and that could turn championship prospects completely on its head for some of these guys, can't it?
Yeah, I think that the main thing in the first race was that everybody knew they had to just bank points early on, and they had to be very careful about each individual corner in the opening stages. But I said it myself that you have to get the moves done when the field is all packed together and everyone's a lot closer to each other, because you've got less of a gap then to the next battle pack or the next set of cars that you've then got to go chasing. So yeah, I think it certainly lines itself up for that. I do agree that we are maybe going to see a bit more argy-bargy. Your forte, Paul, the touring car racing, maybe. These cars don't lend themselves to it just as much, unfortunately. They are very easy to unsettle. They're not a case of front-wheel drive, pin it, and just hope for the best. They're certainly not a car where you can get away with that. As we saw earlier on, it was a great save, actually, in that one by, I think it was it Aaron Mitt that was making the save? He was completely sideways at Spoon Curve. And he was lucky because in cars like this, when you're in a mid-engined GT car, you've got a lot of weight behind you. So you've got a really pointy front end, and the weight is always trying to swing its way around behind you and oversteer through corners. He could have easily lost it, turned right into it, and gone completely sideways, and then the car kicked back the other way and spit him off into the fence. But he held it all the way sideways until it basically came to a stop, and then just glided forward and just carry on. Is it glid or glide? Not sure. Still, that's what he did, and he moved on forward and he got away with it.
Yeah, some impressive driving there. And don't forget, folks, we're only a few moments away from qualifying and race 2. But if you've got any questions for Chaz or I, drop them in the YouTube comment section. I've just lifted very smoothly my laptop into a position where I can actually see it. And I am seeing a couple of quick questions, one of which is, when will the prize winners be announced, and that is by D. Jankovic in the next few days. So we've not got a date exactly, but over the course of the next handful of days, those who have won will be informed. Social media, of course, will put on a little graphic to show who the prize winners are, and perfectly on time. You see the little logo in the right-hand side of your screen, the little QR code. Give it a scan, and you could potentially be one of those prize winners, either 300 or 150 euros worth of vouchers, and also to go into the prize draw to win a VIP experience day at Lamborghini. So any questions, let us know. But Chaz Draycott, we're now back on track action. Qualifications a minute in, and it's 6 p.m. in-game time. It's getting a little bit dark here at Suzuka as we're looking to navigate our way around and get some times on the board.
Well, Suzuka may be situated in Japan, which is the land of the rising sun, but it's definitely the land of the setting sun right now, with the beautiful golden light just glancing off the Suzuka circuit bridge, as you just saw there. But yes, indeed, a different set of conditions for the drivers to deal with now. Not forgetting as well that circuit temperatures may be a lot cooler as well. So the circuit is going to feel completely different to how it did in that first race. And we'll have a look at just how these guys can negotiate the circuit, because, well, like I say, going from one car to the next in a simulator is very, very difficult to do. But going to the same circuit over the course of about 10 minutes, twice, but racing it in completely different conditions, Paul, very, very difficult kettle of fish to get your head around, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is incredible. As we're looking now at Pak Ho Wong, we're on board as he begins to wind up to set a qualification lap here at Suzuka. This is the first flying lap of the day for the number one machine, the fastest driver in the hot stint qualification. As we barrel down to this first corner, it's a mild braking zone. More is set up for the second part of the corner. We accelerate to the edge of the racetrack, hard on the brakes, try and bring the car in. It's wanting to snap all the way through the turn. It's wanting to wind off the racetrack, but we get it back again to the side of the track for the start of Snake. Carry the minimum speed as much as possible through these corners. You've got to be pinpoint precise with your steering inputs. You don't want to be too greedy with the curves that line the edge of this section of track. It will unsettle the car now as we bring it all the way to the right-hand side for a smooth arc through the long, long left hand of the car. Wanders to the outside of the racetrack. You keep it within the confines and then nip it back to the inside. So we start into the Degner curves. Be greedy with the curve on the inside. Use the width of the racetrack, then hard on the brakes. Try and gather it together on corner exit for a good run over the rumble strip, over the AstroTurf now as we line up for the biggest stop on the lap into the hairpin. Keep the car to the right-hand side. Control it on the inside of the corner. We've got to be aggressive with the accelerator, and it looks like we've bailed from this lap. Saw the Delta wasn't up on where he wanted to be, so Chris Sang now we have another go, picking up where we left off pretty much with Chris Sang for the rundown to my favourite section of corners here on the Suzuka Grand Prix circuit. The spoon curves, the end of Damon Hill's career was on these corners, so I shouldn't like them, but I really, really do, as we're aggressive on corner exit curve, go tight, get a good run down the back straight, and then Chaz, we're approaching one of the most fearsome, exciting and dramatic corners in world motorsport, be real or virtual.
Absolutely. 130R is absolutely terrifying. Over 250 kilometers an hour, nearly 260. Just a lift there through the left-hander and just glancing all of the painted section of the circuit on the outside of the curb. You need to be very careful about that curb, clipping the inside of the outer tyres when you then come back across it, and it could lip the car over and suddenly unsettle it. Through the final chicane was tidy as you like, round the Casio Triangle as it's known, and down the start-finish straight again. Even the exit of that chicane, Paul, is so difficult because you're going over a crest and all of a sudden the edge of the circuit just approaches you while you're maintaining a weight transfer of the car. Not only are you doing that on the exit of the chicane, but you're turning left to get out of it. Then you've got to get right on the throttle. You're still going over a crest. You're in a rear-wheel drive car that wants to break away. It's a nightmare of a set of corners, but that's why these drivers are some of the best in the world, because they can navigate that almost like it's second nature. I mean, I can't even do it. I couldn't walk around it without falling over, probably, you know what I mean? But it's absolutely top-notch stuff, isn't it? To see how aggressive these drivers can be with the confidence to carry it on the exit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at the throttle trace that you can see in the bottom right-hand corner as we're riding on board with Kin Long Lee, who won our opening race. Traction control set to 2. He's using the loud pedal to control the rear. So aggressive with the curves as well, but he's got the confidence that the car will grip straight onto the accelerator. There's no hesitation on the throttle pedal there. He doesn't want to give any lap time away whatsoever. And then again, full use of the brakes down into the hairpin, not leaving any kind of fat on the brake there. Because I find, Chaz, I don't know about yourself, I don't know about the folks at home, I'm not aggressive enough on the brake, and I often find myself being much gentler and smoother in a sim than what you would be in real life. What we saw on board there with Kinlong Lee, hard on the gas, hard on the brakes, no waiting time whatsoever, just maximising everything the car's got and then putting it back down on the track in lap time.
He said the word fat and then came to me, Paul. I was worried where that was going. But yeah, absolutely right. It is instantaneous, isn't it? Completely on the throttle, completely on the brakes, one or the other, with barely any crossover whatsoever. And it's so impressive to see that from a driver. And that's one of the beautiful things, again, through Assetto Corsa Competizione, the platform on which we go racing here in the Real Race Super Trofeo Esports competition, is that we get to see these inputs perfectly. It's not kind of like, again, coming back to sort of mid to early 2000s top formula, let's call it, because you would get these graphics, but there'd be about a second delay, so you really had no idea what they were doing, and they weren't that accurate anyway. But here, we get to see exactly what the drivers see on their screens as and when that information comes through. You can see it with those little graphs down there in the bottom right of your screen that have now very perfectly on time disappeared. Thank you, Steve. Our producer, Steve, by the way, doing a wonderful job as ever. But yes, interesting conditions here as the light drops at Suzuka, and you can see drivers bailing out, getting the car set up again to go back out and just maximise every little bit of these conditions. Chris Sang absolutely wringing the neck of it on the exit of the Snake. And look, just a little wiggle like that, Paul, and he's decided, nah, that's that for that one. I'm going to go try again.
And if we look at the times, you can see why it is so close at the top of the table. Chris Sang, as we've just seen, exit to pit lane, is currently our provisional pole sitter. Giacomin once again in second position, so he's right at the very front of the field as per usual. Where is our race one winner? He's not yet got a competitive time on the board, so we're still waiting, leaving it right to the very death of qualification. Park up there in third position. Sanchez making up for the opening lap skirmish that he suffered last time around in fourth. We're looking at Darmo now in 13th place. His car fell away from him towards the end of the race, so Darmo, hopefully for him, has got a handle of whatever dramas befell him in race one and can have a stronger second bite to the apple in this session.
Pak Ho Wong's just gone top of the times with a 2:01.885, nearly 4 tenths clear of anybody else with 7 minutes left on the clock. Fantastic time from him, that. Really feisty stuff from Pak Ho Wong, and that is exactly why he is running the number one car for this event. Just a reminder that the car numbers are basically the positions that these drivers finished in the hot lap competition that led them here to this final where they all go head to head. And another reminder to scan the QR code on the right of the screen right now if you would like to try and win yourself either a €150 or €300 voucher to spend on the Lamborghini store. And you could just see the lap time in the top left of the screen there for Darmo just go red. That means that he's invalidated the lap time, he's gone outside of track limits, and this lap will not count. So it's going to go white as he restarts his lap, and they'll have to try and do it all over again. But again, Paul, they're going right to the edge of the track limits here, really pushing the envelope, and unfortunately for Darmo, pushes it a little bit too far.
Absolutely. So Yusuke Miura that we're looking at now, 11th position, no time on the board for car number 16 at this moment in time. No, sorry, he has got a time on the board, but 1.8 seconds away from the ultimate pace. He crosses the line. Will he improve his time? Yes, he does, but only by a tenth of a second. He stays in 11th position. Sang still in second place, but he's back out on the racetrack now, looking to immediately respond to Pak Ho Wong, our current provisional pole sitter. Pritev Suzuka in 9th place as well, 1.4 seconds away from the ultimate pace as Sanchez dives down pit lane, gets some fresh boots on those cars, and will look to go again for one final throw of the dice.
You can see just how fast these cars are from the inside as well. They look quick on the outside, but when you're on the inside as well, you see how much the cars just bounce and bobble around. They really do show off a lot of body language, and it's just so excellent to see it as well. Really close to the edge of track limits there for Suzuka. You can see the delta in the top left, just a tenth of a second up. He was about 2 tenths up at the apex, but that's the thing, it can rubber band effectively as you get to the apex of a corner. If you're that little bit later on the brakes, you're then a little bit slower on the exit of the corner. You can see it winding up, winding down. There's a yellow flag out, but that's of course going to be cars that have just pulled over to the side to then reset back to the pit lane. Suzuka in car number 4 heads down towards Spoon Curve, And again, a very challenging part of the circuit, because you always tell yourself, I tell myself anyway, I always think this is a really squared off corner, but it's not, is it, Paul? It's a really round, perfect shape. But when you get there, you go from one apex to sort of let it run wide to the next and then try and dig in again for the second apex. You feel like you drive it as a square, don't you?
And it's so deeply satisfying on the 1 in 52 occasions that it's correctly navigated through that section of corners, as we see a mistake. Oh, that's a shame. Right at the very death for the number 4, has to pull the car to the side of the road. 4 minutes left on the clock. He's going to struggle to get back out there and do it as much as one more lap on the timing board. Pak Ho-Wong, no such problems for him at the front of the field. Currently nearly a 4/10 of a second advantage at the front. Can the number 1 consolidate that provisional pole time and put it out of reach of the rest of the pack? Arnamat that we're looking at in 12th position, 1.5 seconds in arrears. Chris Sang that we're riding on board with now through 130R users. All the racetrack goes out of track limits, throws away that 2.5 tenths of a second advantage over his previous fastest time as Arnamat looks to cross the line. 1.6 away, 12th position. Will he improve his time when he crosses the line in a few moments' time? Yes, he does. Up into 9th position for the number 11.
Great stuff, really good stuff, and that's exactly when he needs to do it as well, because drivers that are now going to want to try and improve on that don't have long to do it. You need to set a time really to get into somebody's head later on in a session like this, because it doesn't give people long to respond. You know, if you set a time early on, there's more of an obvious target from the very get-go for people to go chasing. So it's always an interesting dynamic with these qualifying sessions, as we again find ourselves at over 250 kilometers an hour in towards 130R. Runs wide-ish on the exit, but not enough to upset the track limits. Hard on the brakes, down through the gears, smoothly off the brakes as well to let the car grab that traction, slowly turn in all the way down to first gear as well through the chicane. It was a question I was asking myself earlier, whether they go all the way down to first gear or whether they stay in second. And across the line goes Lai. And by the look of it, it does move up slightly. But boy, look how close it is there, Paul. That is remarkable stuff. From about 7th position down, even ahead of him in Sanchez. 0.982 off the top spot. Back to Zachary Smith then. It is really, really close all the way through, isn't it? Amazing.
Yeah, small margins can dictate whether you have a good or a bad session in this qualifying. It's the final qualifying session of the APAC final. Now we're looking on board with Zach Smith, another one of the drivers that we expect to be right at the very sharp end of the field as we come into the spoon section of corners. Look how smooth the movements are behind the wheel. Look how smooth, a little bit of brake, a lot of accelerator for the run down into 130R. Zach Smith, half a second up on this lap. This is going to be a very nice lap indeed. Will it be enough to get him onto the front couple of rows of the grid? We've already got a few more corners to find out. Let's see how much throttle we use through 130R. Dab of the brakes, in fact, and then back on the loud pedal, stays within the confines of the racetrack into the chicane for the final time. We're going to be greedy on the curb there. Thank you very much. We gained another 10th of a second. Hard on the accelerator, another couple of thousandths. This is a great lap from Zach Smith, nearly 7 tenths to the good as we cross the line in 7th position. Are we going to improve? But where are we going to improve to? 2nd place, Zach Smith, right at the very death. Zach Smith moves up onto the front row of the grid, but he's still got over 3 tenths of a second to find if he wants to do anything about Wong at the front of the field.
Amazing stuff, absolutely amazing, really committed lap that as well. You could see the way that the car was behaving. It just seemed completely hooked up for him. It was responding beautifully around the circuit, but he was still wrangling it as well, properly throwing it in, and the car was giving him what he wanted. And that's some of the sort of highs and lows of driving cars like this, as they are such a specific specification, is that you can have a lap where they will feel on rails, absolutely on rails. Everything comes to you and it just behaves itself. But then other times it just feels like you've got nothing and the car doesn't want to respond at all. I mean, look on and off the throttle there for Suzuka as he comes out of Spoon Curve. There was a tiny lift there, went to about 75% throttle just to make sure he had a little extra rotation and didn't run wide outside of track limits. Don't forget as well, scan that QR code on the right hand side, everybody, if you'd like to win either a €300 or €150 voucher to spend at the Lamborghini store, and you'll be entered into a final draw at the end of the competition, which will be for a VIP tour of the Lamborghini factory and facilities. So, another run here out of the final corner. Lost quite a bit of time there towards the end of the lap, according to the Delta did Suzuka. It's almost going to be an identical time here, Paul, but to be honest, 300ths of a second, that helps out in most cases, but this time round, I'm afraid not for Suzuka.
Yeah, he mired down in 12th position for the start of this race, and qualification reaches its conclusion. There are a couple of drivers still out there on the racetrack, but no one is trending towards a particularly quick lap, I don't think. Pak Ho Wong is our provisional pole sitter. He's still very firmly on it as well, trying to put that pole position completely out of the equation for everybody else, but that is a very, very strong drive from the number one machine in qualifying. That's the kind of pace that's going to make his rivals, when they go back to the garage and put their race setup on, look and think, that's not going to be very easy at all to try and overcome in this race. So Pak Ho Wong has decided, I'm on the beach, I've got a stick, I'm going to put a line in the sand and say, come on boys, beat this one. Great lap from our provisional pole sitter as we run through 130R for the final time. Can he throw one last additional curveball into this field and improve on his very last lap of the session? He doesn't need to, but when you're in this kind of form, you want to deliver as much as possible. A 2-minute 1:8.85 is the current lap. Will he improve on this final lap of the day? Yes, he does. A 2-minute 1.787.
Wow.
4/10 Chaz Drake out of a second ahead of Zachary Smith. You don't see that in monobrand racing very often at all.
Not at all. Fantastic time to do that as well. And what a lap that was by Pak Ho Wong. Just shows everybody that not only is he already about 4/10 of a second quicker than the rest of them, but he can then go and improve on that as well. He doesn't even have to go and do that. But I suppose as a driver, when it's this close throughout the field, you have to go out there and just cover your backside, don't you? You have to get another lap on the board. It's a banker lap in the opposite respect as what a banker lap should be.
It's also a mental game, isn't it? Because as I was saying
100%.
that one, the drivers will have gone back to the garage, said, right, my quali's over. Oh, he's a fast guy. Oh, God, he's gone faster again.
Yes.
Right. And that's just, you've planted a seed of doubt in the minds of everybody before we've even hit the green flag. So that's strategically a very intelligent move from Pak Ho Wong. He's already made himself look semi-invincible, and it's just qualifying. And that's any small gain you can get, Chaz, you take it in these competitions, don't you?
Well, absolutely, and that could come down to a number of things, mainly the conditions themselves. If this is a certain track temperature or a certain level of grip that he's more suited to, and he's got a bit more time in knowing how the car behaves in the darker, colder conditions, he's just made it work there, and nearly half a second ahead in a competition like this, where the whole field's separated by 2.6 seconds. That is just absolutely bonkers. And another thing to keep an eye on is the fact that Kin Long Lee, our driver that won the first race of the night, is going to be starting from 5th position on the grid. So he's got a bit of work to do because on average, or on aggregate I should say, he would lose out to Pak Ho Wong here because he's now 4 places behind him.
And of course, the tiebreaker comes down to the combined qualifying time. So let's have a look at that grid. Pak Ho Wong dominated qualifying to take pole position. Zach Smith from Australia in 2nd position in car number 6 will be looking to be his nearest challenger for the rundown into T1. Luca Giacomin in 3rd position is alongside Chris Sang. There is the number 8 car of Chris Sang, 4th on the grid, ahead of our winner from the opening race, Kin Long Lee. 5th position, giving himself more than a fair share of work to do in this second race. Sengin Park is 6th in qualifying, just like he was in race 1, and Ivan Sanchez in 7th place. We'll be hoping for a much better race than we saw last time around. Jeff Newton continues a solid day's work, 8th on the grid, car number 13, unlucky for some, but it's working for Newton so far. Javier Lai is 9th on the grid, and he is just ahead of the 11 car of Art Aranmat in 10th position, rounding out our top 10. Ayim Akim bin Abbas, another good session, 11th place in qualifying, ahead of Sai Pritev Surika in 12th. 13th position is Yusuke Miura in the number 16 machine. He's got Joseph Morgan, car number 15 for company alongside him. Morgan, 14th on the grid. 15th place goes to Takuma Aoki in the 17, and alongside him is Harry Krupanand in 16th place. 17th, Ben Sharman. In 18th position is Tinesh Damo, and in 19th is Jacob Trainer. We're missing one driver that did not take part in the first race. Not quite sure exactly who that is. I'll have to look through my list in a moment and try and identify it. But 19 cars, Chaz, will take to the field for this final race of the day. The final race of the Real Race Super Trofeo Esports APAC Regional Final.
Yeah, absolutely. And a wonderfully tidy lined up grid that we have before us there.
Oh, wow, that is strangely looking tidy.
It will get underway in just a second as the rolling start begins. They'll do a full lap of the circuit here to prepare themselves. A lot of the time, you'll see, of course, that they'll do a sort of shortened lap for this, but we're going for the full simulation this time round. They would have done the virtual grid walk, had all the fans on there, all the screaming kids, everybody all on the grid, hoping to check out the cars and the drivers, of course, and get their thoughts ahead of the race. And with the beautiful sunset here at Suzuka, we get ourselves underway. The reflections on the circuit are going to look very tidy all the way through. Interesting to see that some of them have got, let's call the full beams on, the little fog lights that are a bit further down in the bumper, and other drivers have not at this stage. It's not going to make that much of a difference, and it's not mandatory at this stage as far as I know, but it certainly looks interesting amongst the grid. If some of them have brighter lights than others. God, it really sounds like I'm clinging on to anything I can now while I try and figure out which driver's missing, doesn't it? But I'm still unable to figure out which one of them we've not got, because we've got Thinesh Darmo. He's a bit further down than he was earlier on. We can do some live detective work here, Paul, and try and figure out which of the drivers. If Jeff Newton's back as well, up there in the order. Is it? No, Bin Abbas is there as well. So I'm
hold on to your hats, people, for riveting broadcast while we try and work this out.
You can hear the cogs in my brain whirring and clanking together. I'm running out of oil at this point.
But while we do a little bit of mental consideration, Chaz, I want to ask you a quick question, if I may. On this formation lap, this is your opportunity to pretend that you're a racing driver. What are these drivers doing? What are they looking to achieve? Is it just a circulation to the grid, or is there some strategy towards this as well?
It's more of a case of trying to get me to multitask, Paul. That's the scary bit. But no, this is definitely a time where you just get a bit of heat in the tyres, just get a bit of heat in the brakes as well. Try and get everything to what I call an optimum operating temperature. It's something I have to say a lot during the truck racing that I commentate on when they do their rolling starts as well. And it's all about just you've set the car up, and now you're setting the car up, if that makes sense. So you've set it up how you want it to be, the fundamentals of underneath you, the more mechanical, physical bits, and here you're now getting it race ready. This is the warm-up bit. This is where you get the tyres to the right temperature, get the brakes squeaking away, do a bit of weaving like this for Zachary Smith here, just one way then the other. There's not really much in the way of psyching out other drivers at this stage. It's not something that you can do on a warm-up lap, to be honest, because in a set of Corsa Competizione, you have the benefit of being able to drive through your opponent's cars as well, so you can't even wipe them out and hope for an early advantage with anything like that. So it's not quite the sort of warm-up lap that you'd see in the real world, but still, you get to use it in the same way. And I've got great news, Paul. During all of that, I've realised who we don't have on the grid. Would you like to know?
You're a better man than me. Yes, fire away. Who was we missing?
It's number 9, Patipon Satyanaran, that is not on the grid.
Unfortunately. Good spot. So that's a real shame, actually, because Satyanaran was one of those drivers that seemed to be in plenty of drama during the course of the race, offered some good value for money for folks at home. So a real shame that we've lost Satyanaran for whatever reasons that may be.
And meaning no disrespect whatsoever, I think maybe Paul and I sighed a brief sigh of relief that the number 14 car had not shown up this evening for the sake of our broadcasting quality, because Shalom von Sriprasoet, I think it was not here, but unfortunately for whatever reason. So we hope they are well, whatever the reason may be. But it certainly saved me and Paul some tongue twisters. But we've got one more 30-minute tongue twister coming now, Paul, as the final race of the night gets underway.
So do not go anywhere at all. We are going to go racing for the very final time in the APAC regional final race of the Real Race Super Trofeo Esports. Pak Ho Wong is the man on pole position. Zachary Smith is the pretender to that race lead in second place. It's all going to come down for the charge to the first corner. The lights are red on the starting gantry. Pak Ho Wong, picture in picture there. Full concentration on those lights. It goes green at the very last possible moment as 19 Lamborghini Super Trofeo Evo 2 cars come barreling down to this first turn here at the beautiful Suzuka Grand Prix circuit. We've got a couple of scuffles. There's contact in the middle of the pack. Several cars getting involved in that one for good measure on the outside of the opening couple of corners. A secondary bit of contact further down the running order as well, but Paco Wong at the front of the field holds on from Zachary Smith. There's a big gap now to the following car, and we expect a drama, Chaz Draycott, and we've got it almost immediately.
We absolutely have, and I'd be really intrigued to see whether race one winner Kin Long Lee was involved in that one, but it was Luca Giacomin that went straight in there and just tapped the back of the car in front. It's so easy to unsettle these machines, like I said, especially on the brakes as well. Oh, and there's been a bigger drama even further down the order as well, as the cars have gone completely backwards, and it looks like Lee is down in somewhere like 7th or 8th position at the moment, our race one winner, as the field sort of cycles back up through the timing tower to sort itself out. That was a big bit of drama in the opening stages, and well, you always tend to get drama at Suzuka. It's always been a fantastic end of season circuit for many championships around the world, but Paco Wong, well, this is like a visual representation of qualifying now. He's over 4/10 of a second clear from second place. Zachary Smith, I'm sure, for the points, will be happy to be sat there in second place after all that's gone on. We've got Bin Abbas going a little bit wide there in front of Morgan as well, and now I suppose all drivers at this point, Paul, will be trying to sort of recuperate after a very dramatic opening couple of corners. There'll be a lot of them that will be happy to have made it through, and a lot of drivers that will have been involved in that, knowing they now need to push like mad to get points back.
Yeah, this has been big repercussions for the overall championship standings. As things stand, several big name drivers involved in that bit of contact. Chris Sang being one of those, down in 15th position. Kin Long Lee, another one of the championship hopefuls coming into this race. He was 8th position, but he's just found a way past Arnaud Mat ahead, so he's up into 7th place. I think it was held up in those dramas, but not necessarily heavily involved, so Kin Long Lee can breathe a small sigh of relief, but he's still got 27 minutes 45 seconds, and he's got a lot of work to do in the number 2 car if he wants to stay in the conversation for the championship at the end of the racing today. Wong and Smith at the front of the field. Sanchez, a much better start to this race than we saw in the first event. He's up into 3rd place. Xavier Lee into 4th position. Bin Abbas, great start, was 11th on the grid, is now 5th, courtesy of the dramas in front from Morgan. Kin Long Lee that we spoke about, Arnaud Mat that's just been overtaken in 8th, Aoki and Suzuka are 9th and 10th position. Good news is everybody is still running on the racetrack apart from Giacomin, who has bailed from the race and is a retirement in the first few corners.
Yeah, Giacomin will be devastated with that, because he would have been focusing on potentially not being hit by the cars behind as well, and he's just sent it in. And speaking of sending it in, Kin Long Lee, well, sends it down the inside of the hairpin, gets it done on the exit. He is on a mission right now, is Kin Long Lee. He's really pushing hard indeed. You could see he was turning right there. I was worried that maybe the steering was knocked out after potential damage from earlier on, but there's just a tiny little time difference between the camera coming through and him actually going around the corner. But he's well in concentration now and moving forward through the pack very quickly, already up to 7th place. And I said before, didn't I, Paul, this is the perfect time to make places back up if anything goes wrong, because you've now got the field as compact as it will be, and then you've got another 26 minutes left to go before it all starts to be, well, it'll be spreading out any time now, I should say, sorry. You've got 26 minutes for it to continue to spread out, and Kin Long Lee now is certainly a man under pressure. We've got Seung-in Park, who finished 6th in that first race. He's down in 12th position now as well, so he's certainly not going to be one of the drivers that's in the happiest of situations, but he's one of the drivers that really monsters these curbs, isn't he? He loves it down at that chicane.
Yeah, a real bit of driving there, some good aggression. Car was twitchy on corner exit. Did you see that one in the acceleration zone? Had to gather quick hands to gather that one back together again, but Park on the charge. Jeff Newton is the man ahead. Will he take a look? Will he take a dive down into T1? He keeps the car. He lets the nose hang to the inside.
Whoa.
That gives him track position for the second part of the corner. Jeff Newton, bit of intelligent racecraft there to recognise that he's in the inside and just give him the room to finish the move. So that's a man concentrated is Seung-in Park in 11th place. But Kin Long Lee, let's go back to that overtake at the hairpin for a minute, Chaz. That was a quality piece of driving. So Kin Long Lee's not giving up hope of snatching a victory at the end of this one. Great piece of racecraft.
Yeah, absolutely. The confidence after having an incident just a lap before to then go and send it down the inside on the brakes like that, and also have the confidence in your competitor. That's one thing we don't often speak about in motorsport or esports in general, is that you have to have the belief and the confidence in the guys that you're racing against, not just yourself, that they will give you the room, that you'll have a fair fight with you, that they're not going to turn in on you and ignore the fact that you're there. He really did put a lot of belief there into Morgan that he was diving down the inside of, and he did a wonderful job of it, and he got it stopped well. Morgan gave him the room, and it worked out beautifully. There's the Malaysian driver, Aiman Hakim bin Abbas. He finished the earlier race in 12th place, has a big wobble, and that makes life easier for Lee, so that's now 5th position for him. And, well, he's certainly having a good time of it now. He's actually just flashed the hazard lights at him there, I think, as if to say, thank you very much, mate. I am on my way. I was going to point out that Newton and Park, that we were watching battle a moment ago, they were actually 5th and 6th in that previous race. Newton took that position right at the end of the race from Park, and now the two of them are fighting for 11th and 12th in this one, so fortunes definitely do change. But it's Wong leading the way with the fastest lap of the race now, and a 2.5-second lead over Zachary Smith. Zach finished 4th in race 1, and Wong finished 3rd in race 1, so the two of them are going to be very close on points after this. Sanchez was finished in the final position, actually, in 20th place of that first race, so definitely a change for him, but on aggregate that's not going to be a great score. And then Lai, well, he was down in 10th place in that first race, so there's a few mixed up in the order there, Paul. There's going to be a lot of tied points in the middle of the field, I feel, but at this moment in time I'm pretty confident in saying that Pak Ho Wong will be the one that is going to be the champion as this stands right now.
Yeah, there's still plenty of racing left to do, though, and Kin Long Lee has not given up this one. It's good to see, actually, after a dominant performance in race 1, we've now established, as a fact, in a Lamborghini, Kin Long Lee is an incredibly quick driver. What I'm looking forward to seeing, because of the suboptimal qualifying and the dramas in the opening lap, how good of a race car driver is he? Can he overtake? Can he keep his composure? Can he be maturely aggressive and move his way through the field? So far, he's passing that test with flying colours, and there we see Kin Long Lee now looking at Xavier Lie ahead, trying to find another way past. So he's using that speed, he's extracting that speed, but at the same time, he's making these decisive overtakes. If you're Lamborghini, this is more value to you seeing this attribute than it would be another dominant performance at the front of the field. They're looking for rounded drivers, and Kin Long Lee is performing very nicely indeed. He's got a good run now through the second part of the Spoon Kirby, has the inside line for the run up to 130 yard. I don't think he'll get the deal done before the corner, but he has the upper ground. In fact, he does get straight back on the racing line, aggressively chops the nose off the front of Xavier Lai's car, and that is 4th position for Kin Long Lee. Things are changing, Traz Jacob, every few seconds in these championship permutations.
Yep, and that's the wonders of this sort of competition. There's so much on the line, so much can change oh so quickly, and before you know it, the entire landscape of the championship can change from one driver being the one to beat to having another one that is certainly top of the pile. So, Ivan Sanchez very sideways through turn 2. That's just maybe a little bit of overconfidence there through the first couple of corners, but again, it's that pendulum effect of the rear of these cars. It just hangs the back end out so much, and you can see even now he's winding the lock on and he's just giving it a twitch here and there just to straighten it up, just to throw the momentum back in the other direction. Interesting to see him using a really large round wheel for this car, actually, because usually you would see people on a more flat and sort of X-shaped sort of formula rim instead, which is very similar to what the car has in the real world and even in the sim behind its steering column. But I suppose maybe a bit of added control, a bit of extra feel there for Ivan Sanchez. And again, it's just down to the confidence in your equipment and what you're used to, I suppose. But I like that. I like that from him because it just shows something a little bit different, doesn't it? It shows versatility. There's the word.
Excellent, well put. Yeah, absolutely. And Sanchez doing good work so far, up in 3rd position. But as you say, that car's looking a little bit flightier than some of those around it. So Sanchez needs to be a little bit careful now. 30-second time penalty for Park for an unsafe rejoin. So Park, 11th position at this moment in time. 30 seconds will be applied to his time at the checkered flag. So wherever he finishes, expect him to lose a whole host more places come the conclusion of the checkered flag. We're looking at Krupland now in 13th place. He's trying to find a way past Jeff Newton. Everyone's trying to find a way past Jeff Newton this weekend, haven't they? Newton doing sterling work on the defensive, but he'll be more than a little bit disappointed. That's for 12th and 13th position, soon to become 13th position. And if Sang's got anything to go by, we'll go 3 wide and take 2 places for the price of 1 for the run up into 130R. We're going to go 2 wide, we're going to go 3 wide. Now we're going to go in single file. Sang gets the job done right at the very death of the corner, and Newton has absolutely no answer but to go tracking to the outside of the circuit and drop back behind his 2 rivals ahead.
Fantastic bit of racing, very, very exciting stuff, and still millimetres between them all as well. That's exactly what we want to see. They really aren't just pushing the limits of the circuit itself, but pushing the limits of one another and their cars. And it is such close one-make racing. But you and I both know, Paul, that one-make racing is some of the very finest in the world because it levels out the playing field of the machines. And of course, then it's all down to the drivers. And one driver that's showing us fantastic talent at the moment, Kin Long Lee, he is continuing to move forward in the field despite the upset earlier on with having the incident in the first couple of corners, getting caught up in that. Seems like he didn't have any damage or anything major come of that. He just had to get out of it and take evasive action and lose positions as a result right now. You can tell he's definitely concentrating though. He's definitely got my my open mouth commentary face, no concentration face that I have when I drive. But I grit my teeth a little bit more and my jaw kills by the end of a race. Yeah. Probably why that mean it hurts at the end of commentary as well, because you can't talk this much rubbish for this long without your jaw hurting. But still, sorry, go on. Was there a comeback to that?
You said it perfectly, actually. I sympathise with everything that you've said there. But Kin Long Lee, this is interesting now. Look how quickly he's close to the back of Sanchez. Yes, Sanchez is looking a little bit ragged at this moment in time. He's not as comfortable behind the wheel of that car as maybe we've seen him at other junctures of this race. But Kin Long Lee has got pace to spare in that number 2 car, and if he can get past Sanchez, he's still got just under 18 minutes and not a huge gap between himself and Zachary Smith further up. This is Kin Long Lee racing himself back into championship contention very nicely indeed. He's got a great run now through the chicane. He's showing the car to the inside. He's letting the driver ahead know he wants the inside line. Sanchez goes hard defensive to the right-hand side of the track, but that opens up the racing line for Kin Long Lee. Will he be brave enough and committed enough into corner entry? Yes, he will. And that is a very confident and solid pass for 3rd position. So now the bottom step of the podium beckons. Next man up the road, Zachary Smith. 4 seconds to find, 17 minutes to find it. Not beyond the realms of possibility for Kin Long Lee.
No, absolutely not. Completely agree. He could potentially move forward into 2nd position if he gets past Zach Smith. 17 minutes and 4 seconds to gain. So, looking at it as well, with our current race leader, Pak Ho Wong, finishing the first race in 3rd place, if Lee gets up into 2nd, that's what he has to do, basically, to win this. Otherwise, if he finishes in 3rd, he and Wong will be tied on points, and that's when we're going to have to start looking at lap times. So there's a very exciting prospect here. We saw how consistent Lee was earlier on in the race, in the first race especially, so we sort of doubt that there will be a major mistake or anything that will throw him off into the barriers, but you've got to combine that with the fact that he's going to want to push like mad now. He's going to want to throw everything at this car.
And don't forget, Chaz, Pak Ho Wong, and we're saying, oh yes, he's put an extra faster lap in qualifying even though he didn't need to. Yeah. That might prove absolutely crucial, those 10th plus that he gained on that final tour. If he gets this on points, then that could be absolutely massive. So Pak Ho Wong doing what he needs to do, but it may well have done the work a little bit earlier on.
Yeah, that's very true, actually. I could feel my brain expanding there with the new knowledge of that epiphany. Here's a look at the start then, and what happened down in towards turn 1. There was contact between the number 3 machine and others at the front of the pack. This is the number 16 car we're looking at right now of Yusuke Miura. There's 2 cars sideways at the front. Can we see? There was contact for Lee, actually. Lee did make contact with one of the stationary cars at the front end.
And that was a big contact as well. That wasn't a gentle tap. That was a significant amount of damage to the front of that Lamborghini. So, yeah, it was a head. So, Kin Long Lee's dicing with misfortune. But look how far back he is, Chaz, at this stage as well. I didn't quite acknowledge at the time just how significant that contact was. So, Very lucky boy as well to avoid that one further back.
Yeah, that's the big hit, that, between Miura. The 24 car of Ben Sharman was involved in that. I think, to be fair, once Miura had seen that Kinlong Lee had gone down the inside of him, I didn't get the number of the car that was down his inside, but I just don't think he knew that the other car had made itself known down the inside, let's say. And it's very easy to lose sight of little moments like that when you're fighting in such a pack. I mean, there were so many of them 2x2 around the entire snake there before they went up through Dunlop, and pretty terrifying that you've got to be in such a high-stakes competition with so many talented drivers around you, everybody panicking about who's going to go where, who's going to run wide, who's going to have contact, because as we've seen, the cars can pinball off each other quite aggressively because of how on the edge they are. And speaking of on the edge, Suzuka, comes to a stop, grabs himself a brew, and then sets off again down the inside of the hairpin, because that was very close to making contact with the back of Aoki. But Aoki, nothing untoward there. He put the car in the middle of the road, exactly where he was allowed to, and Suzuka had to just concede and get on the brakes and get out of that one.
And intelligent as well from the number 4 to recognise that was happening, rather than forcing the issue in a guaranteed accident. Got on the brakes, lost a lot of time, but stayed well out of way of contact. So, as we come to expect, to be fair, from Prativ Suzuka, very gentlemanly, respectful, intelligent racing. We've seen him race many a time in different championships, and often that's an attribute that you can attribute towards him. So good driving from Suzuka, and he lives to fight another day as that battle between 9th and 10th position continues to rage on. 13 minutes, 32 seconds left on the clock. It's our time once again to remind you, good people watching from home, that QR code on the side of your screen. If you point your phone camera at it, click the link, register on the link, you can be in with a chance of winning 300 or 150 euros worth of vouchers to spend at the Lamborghini store. The more times that you enter that competition, the more chances you will get to win as well the grand prize, which is a tour of the Lamborghini factory and museum, VIP, behind the scenes. Well worth being involved in. Costs absolutely nothing apart from a couple of moments of your time. So do that one. This is your last opportunity in which to engage, and then over the course of the next few days we will be announcing who those lucky winners are. And we've run this all season long in Europe, in the NALA region, and now the APAC regional final as well. So plenty of chances to win plenty of good things as Pak Ho Wong continues to look like he's just having a casual day surfing the internet, just nice and chilled and relaxed at the front of the field. No pressure, not get into him. Just check the mirrors, make sure we're all okay, and then serenely on we go. 8 laps in the books, race lead by 1.4 seconds.
Yeah, he really did look chilled, didn't he? Certainly wasn't showing any urgency in his body language or even on his face. You know, he's just in the moment and just continuing to drive the car to the best of his ability. Still holds the fastest lap of the race at the moment as well. And looking at the gap between second and third place, Lee has brought it down by about 6 or 7 tenths of a second. We'll check now as they go through the next delta. It's now down to 2.9. There's another 4 tenths shaved off. So Zachary Smith will be potentially watching his mirrors at this point in time. But at the same time, he's still got 11 and 3/4 minutes to go. And I'm not sure how quickly Lee will catch up with him there, because it was well into the first half of the race that he was through and having to continue to move forward. We see Yusuke Miura here trying to chase down Trainer, and then Damo just in front of that for 15th, 16th and 17th positions. And I have to say, Paul, we always compliment a set of Corsa Competizione on how pretty it is. But right now, in these conditions where you get the odd bit of spotlight and spectator lighting at the edge of the circuit, lighting up the gorgeous metallic finish on these liveries that we see in this championship, this sim looks absolutely wonderful at this time of night.
Racing cars at this time of night in general look absolutely wonderful, but you're absolutely right. ACC, fabulous audio, visuals and physics, and Zach Smith is concentrating. Fabulous concentration face from Zachary Smith there in second position, trying to close that gap down. Jacob Trainer, though, is a man under massive pressure. This is the fight for 16th and 17th. Miura has the inside line. Miura doesn't have the overlap. Then Trainer doesn't have the racetrack, so Miura goes through that gap. Trainer's got a good run, though, coming out of the corner, courtesy of that wide line, but just no racetrack in which to fit his car back into it. So he drops down into 17th, Miura up into 16th position. As things stand, 9 laps in the books. Pak Ho Wong is our race leader, And the provisional championship standings look like this. I'll pretend that I've made these up, but I haven't. Ryan Gill has done this for us, so thank you as always, Ryan. Kin Long Lee, Pak Ho Wong will be tied on 26 points apiece. Zachary Smith is third provisionally on 20 points, 6 points in arrears. Luca Giacomin is fourth, 12 points, but no longer in this race. And Ivan Sanchez in fifth position on 8 points, currently fourth on the racetrack. So it is a two-way fight between Kin Long Lee, Pak Ho Wong, and as things stand, if somebody wants to be the definitive champion, and we don't need to do some more mental mathematics in the background, something's got to change in these top three positions, otherwise it's going to go down to a tiebreak.
Absolutely will do, and you can see a flash of lights there from Kin Long Lee. He was just making sure that Zachary Smith knew he was coming. He was just upsetting whatever he has going on in his mirrors, just saying, look, there's a Lamborghini here and it's getting closer and closer. And I think I've mentioned this already, Paul, I don't know about you, but if I was going to have any car in my rear view mirror, I think one of these Lamborghinis would be the last one to have, because, well, maybe the last and the first, because it is so stunningly beautiful and angry looking. At the same time, if you're being hunted down by a faster driver in one of these things, I think I'd just rather turn the computer off and go to bed, to be honest with you, because it is absolutely menacing as anything, the front of this Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2. I actually stumbled across one by accident in the wild at Imola at a completely different race meeting that was all still in its raw carbon, and it had been pulled out of the back of a trailer. And I thought Batman had rolled into town and decided that he wanted a holiday hire car, because it was absolutely wonderful. And when they're all painted up, stickered up, and all beautifully finished, even in the virtual world, these cars still look the part. They really do. And again, it's another thing to attribute to Assetto Corsa Competizione. It still excites me the same way the real cars do when I see them going by on the screen and just hear the noise they make and the way that they behave on a racing track. You know, they are so close to the real thing that it still gets my blood going. You know, it still gets the adrenaline pumping, because they are so cool, these cars.
And I think it is a big thanks to Assetto Corsa Competizione for putting this simulation together, and to AK Esports, of course, for putting in the work and the effort and the planning and the production to make the real race Super Trofeo Esports Championship here for Lamborghini. So it's always great to be part of an AK Esports competition. It is great to commentate on some really good quality driving standards that we've seen. Sharman, by the way, as I say that one, jumped down pit lane, so he's currently last on the track, a lap down. He's decided enough is enough with 7 minutes, 38 seconds left on the clock. Suzuka still in 10th position, still behind Aoki, but for how much longer is the big question. A good run that we got through the spoon curve. Now we're coming to the slightly curved straight here for the run to 130R. Aoki covers the inside line. No real need to do that one at that corner, Sunshine, because no one's going to be going alongside you. That pushes Aoki, compromises him, should I say, on corner exit. Suzuka licks the paint at the back of that Lamborghini, then goes side by side into the chicane. Two cars don't fit, so as you were, and Park, with his 30-second time penalty, is watching in the background thinking, you guys look like you're having some fun. Think I'll buy into this one and have a sniff around in the first corner.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. That very, very close stuff, and now wonderful opportunism as well. Side by side into the first couple of corners, and Park doesn't make it work this time round. I think he knows he's got that 30-second penalty just hanging over him at this moment in time, so he knows that it's still going to affect his race. If he still gets ahead of these guys, he's not going to finish with them. So maybe there's a bit of both here actually going on, Paul, because he could be thinking to himself, if I get ahead of this guy, it doesn't matter. It doesn't change his position. It doesn't change my position. But at the same time, he's thinking, there's no point me getting in front of him. I may as well let these two battle for that position in front for ninth place.
Yeah,
that makes sense?
If there's a clean opportunity, if there's something that's got a higher rated chance than 50-50, then of course it's going to go for it. But as you say, speculative moves or risky moves aren't worth the effort, as we're looking at Suzuka now for the run down into the hairpin, not close enough to make an attack, but Aoki covers the inside line anyway. That's going to cause problems on corner exit. Suzuka knows this as well, so concentrates on getting the masses of power down for the run out of the hairpin. Not quite enough, so that's a battle that will continue. But Chaz, interesting news. We know who's going to win this one if it comes down to a tiebreaker. Why don't you tell the world, if things stay as they are, how is this one going to fall? Because the mental maths, well, not mental maths, it's been scribbled on paper and triple checked, have been done by our team behind the scenes.
Yeah, thank you very much again, Ryan Gill, for providing us with the updates. But yes, in his very words, if we tie on points, Pak Ho Wong will win by the combined qualifying times. The difference between them across both sessions is, well, one, a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be, because I was talking about mere thousandths of a second before. 0.48 of a second as we go side by side again here as Suzuka tries it round the outside of Aoki. Nothing doing there. But yeah, 0.480, nearly half a second from Pak Ho Wong to, of course, Lee in third position on the road at the moment. That is just remarkable. But again, you were absolutely right, Paul. You hit it on the head before. He needed to just get a decent lap in. He didn't have to go out and do another one, but he still added to that amazing advantage by doing so. Fantastic stuff.
And that's if things stay as they are. I don't think they're going to do it, because Kin Long Lee is minimum 0.4 of a second per lap faster than Zachary Smith for the last 4 or 5 laps. Sometimes as much as 6 or 7 tenths, sometimes as little as 3 or 4. With 0.8 of a second covering them and 4 minutes and 20 seconds left on the clock, Kin Long Lee has the opportunity in his hands. He needs to find a way past. He's got less than a second delta between Zach Smith and himself, and he'll know. He'll either be whispered in his ear by somebody that he's got working with him, or he'll have done the maths himself coming into this one. He needs that position to take the championship. Don't leave it to chance. Win it or bin it time for Kin Long Lee.
Yeah, absolutely. Just got to send it now. Absolutely send it. Try and get the most out of the car that you can. Less than 4 minutes, just a couple of laps, and he's within a second. So it's tense. It's very tense, but this is exactly what we wanted, Paul. It's a competition and a championship like this that is coming down to the wire. There could be a change around the corner. There could be drama. You never really know. But again, it's the wonderful world of esports and sim racing replicating what can happen in the real world, and the same sort of dramas, same emotion, the same racing in such a perfect form. And here is that battle then. Kin Long Lee really, really close now to the back of Zachary Smith. Half a second the last time they broke any of the beams. And even then, look, there's less than a second forward to Phil Wong. Phil Wong? Apologies. Pak Ho Wong. I don't know why I said Phil Wong, and he's a comedian in the UK. That just came out, I'm sorry. But Kin Long Lee is already looking down the inside of Zachary Smith. He's flashing the lights even. He's got the confidence, Paul, to press the button and flash the lights halfway around the corner, because he can see what he needs to do. It's literally just get past that hurricane in front of him, and then the race leader is only a few car lengths in front of that. It's amazing.
This is absolutely incredible stuff. So let me just make it very, very clear to everybody watching at home. What you are looking at now, Kin Long Lee, this is for the championship. He can do absolutely nothing apart from overtake Zachary Smith ahead if he wants to win the APAC regional final of the Real Race Super Trofeo Esports. Third position is not good enough. This is on the track for the championship. Zachary Smith is out of contention. Pak Ho Wong in front of Kin Long Lee, throws it to the inside. Contact, the inevitable contact between the two of them. Kin Long Lee hits the rear of Zachary Smith. Smith makes an absolute hash of trying to get the car pointing in the right direction again as well. Following that contact, not how we wanted to see this one concluded on the run to the hairpin. Contact between the two of them. Kin Long Lee now has the track position he needs, but I've got a sneaking suspicion that's not going to be the end of that particular bit of drama. And if he's got any intelligence on the racetrack at all, he will give the position back to Zachary Smith. Otherwise, I think we're going to see some penalisation and championship hopes up in thin air.
I think that's settled it. I hate to jump to conclusions, Paul, but I think that has settled it, honestly, because if that position isn't given back, then that's just going to be it. He may as well give it back sooner rather than later, because then he's got a chance to at least try and make the move again on the final lap of the race. But he's just carrying on. He's just continuing on. I mean, there's only two ways you can go about it. You can either push on and hope for the best, or you can give it back. And I think if he does try and give it back now, there's a chance that Sanchez can come through as well. But even if he ties on points with Wong at the front, then it's still going to come down to lap times, and Wong is going to win this. I think that's the perfect thing Wong would have wanted to see in his rearview mirror as well. It's not what you want to wish upon your opponents at all. You know, you never want there to be contact or anything controversial going on. But at the same time, it's given him a bit more breathing room behind by a couple of seconds, and he can cruise to a victory at the front. His pace tonight has been absolutely savagely fast, and that's the reason he's car number one. He was the fastest in the hot lap sessions coming into this, and he's led this race from lights to flag here, Paul. Another solid drive indeed.
And take nothing away from Pak Ho-wong. The story is, of course, the contact between Kin Long Lee and Zachary Smith, but Pak Ho-wong has done absolutely everything he needed to do to win this competition in the finest style. A solid opening race to the event, an absolutely lightning fast qualification, and then when it came to race time, converted that pole position into a race lead he never looked in danger of losing, did not put a wheel wrong, had the pace when he needed the pace. And Pak Ho-wong, mark my words now, he has not got this championship because of that contact. He has won this purely from being the fastest driver on the day and doing exactly, Chaz Draycott, what he needed to do to take the title.
Yeah, that's it. It's just amazing, isn't it, that he's been able to pull this one off. But the pace is reflected through. You know, that's it. That's the long and short of it, is that the pace is reflected through. Here is the move again. So looking down the inside, I mean, he's come a long way back as well. That's the thing. It's not like he was down the inside for a long time and then Zach came across him just gradually or anything. It was just a long, long way back.
So here we go then. For the final time, Pak Ho-wong accelerates to the line to take a dominant race victory in the second race of the final for the APAC region. The real race, Super Trofeo Esports. Now, the long wait to see where his rivals come across the line. Zachary Smith back in second position. Kin Long Lee finishes in third. That is enough to tie on points, but with countback on qualification, it will be Pak Ho-wong that takes with him the championship title after a hard day of racing. Sal Pritavev Suzuka on the last lap tries to move up into ninth place. He gets elbowed out by Aoki into the chicane. Park can't find a way past either. They cross the line, 8th, 9th and 10th position. That Park will drop down the order. And we wanted drama, Chaz Draycott. My goodness me, did we get drama at the end?
We absolutely did. That was so much entertainment. But Pak Ho-wong, I mean, a lot of the drivers near the front of the pack tonight with some of the great racing that was on show would have been so deserving of that. But yes. Pak Ho-wong's composure to go out there, deliver such an amazing lap time in that second qualifying session, and then lead it from lights to flag. That's exactly the composure that the team will be looking for. You know, that's what they want. That's why they put this competition on. And he's displayed all the great qualities of a driver that can deliver. That was mega.
Yeah, he's done everything that he needs to do to win the championship. Often, it's a little bit like the Alain Prost syndrome, isn't it? He put the car on pole, lightning quick, walked away at the front of the field, and it's not exciting. He's not in the dramas. No. He's not making the passes. He's not hanging the car out sideways and on the ragged edge. He is just driving to the limit, within the limit, never above it, and doing exactly, with the minimal fuss possible, what he needs to do to take the championship. Not riveting from our point of view as a broadcast team, but as a driver, as a team manager, it's exactly what you need to see. And he delivered perfectly. Really, really strong performance from Pak Ho-wong there. Thoroughly impressive.
What we call quids in here in the UK, isn't it? Absolutely fantastic stuff. But the thing is, you know, he had pressure early on, as we can see on our screens now. It wasn't like he was completely alone in that one. And Zachary Smith was right with him for the early stages, but he just gradually just wound it up and just got further and further away down the line. And let's not forget the conditions that they were doing this in as well. The sun was setting at Suzuka. It was getting darker and darker all the time. He had no cars in front of him as a sort of reference point of where he was going to be braking. He knew the circuit that well, and he knew where he wanted to brake, how he wanted to make the car behave, that he could do that whether it was daylight or in the dark as well. So, yeah, fantastic job. And let's not forget, over the course of both races, the conditions were very different as well.
Yes, and qualification as well in the wet. So Pak Ho-wong, a deserving race winner, but also a deserving APAC regional final champion. And heart has to go out to Kin Long Lee. Fantastic in the opening race, provided masses of entertainment in race 2, but a messy way for those championship aspirations to evaporate, unfortunately, as is the case for many a driver, real and virtual. The hairpin was the place where the driver took part, and sadly that bit of contact between himself and Zachary Smith, and then the shenanigans of swapping back positions again, were what caused the conclusion of that charge. But Pak Ho-wong won't care one iota about that one, because he did everything he needed to do.
He did, absolutely did. You know, while all the drama unfolded behind him, he just drove off over the horizon. It was fantastic. It was interesting, though, that he dropped back a little bit, actually,
because towards the end of the race, he wasn't as far ahead. It was like he sort of stepped off the gas because he knew that he didn't have to drive as close to the limit in the end there. But we're just hearing, aren't we, Paul, that there is there's actually a steward's decision in the end for what went on towards the end of the race.
Yeah, that turned into a steward's warning for Kinlong Lee. That was only a warning, of course, because Lee dropped back and re-gave the position to Zachary Smith a little bit later, perhaps, than would have been the wisest time to have done it. But he did recognise fault and recognise the right thing to do was to re-give that position back to Zach Smith and give himself, of course, as well, Chaz, the opportunity to have one final throw of the dice or take advantage of a mistake. So steward's warning, but that's kind of immaterial to the end result because third position for Kinlong Lee, tied on points, but the qualifying times for what won it for Paco Wong.
Yeah, and again, that just comes down to the overall pace over the course of the night and playing the game of the race meeting. It's not just about being quick in the races and getting a certain finishing position. It's not just about the qualifying either. Tying it all together and giving the all-round package is what the team want to see, and that's what they've got in this form of the competition, and the regulations are tuned in a way that shows them that, it presents itself naturally to them as the race meeting goes on. So to do it by 0.48 of a second is just remarkable because here we are speculating about the fact that, it's going to be thousands between them, it's going to be a tiny margin, and then he's now by nearly half a second. It's just mad. It's just mad, but again, that just shows the talent level in this competition. It's so amazing that we've got drivers that are all so quick. Each and every one of them tonight was so fast and are still some of the best drivers on the service that you will see on a set of Corsa Competizione. But the fact that that's what makes it so impressive, that Paco Wong was half a second ahead on the aggregate qualifying times and still won the race lights to flag. So, yeah, massive adoration for this achievement right now. You can tell I'm just in awe of it. Brilliant stuff.
Yeah, Paco Wong might be the champion, but everybody's a winner. I know that sounds really cliched and really cheesy, but it's absolutely true. Everybody's performed fabulous, put on a great show for the fans, for the team at Lamborghini that are watching and waiting, because we only having one winner. But I don't think people aren't watching these broadcasts and seeing who's strong, who's not, who's got the right behaviour and the mentality. Opportunities present themselves. And I'm just seeing, by the way, Jeff Newton is in the YouTube chat, and he didn't put enough fuel in for race 2. So, Jeff, commiserations. Great to see you racing anyway, and better luck next time. And hopefully you enjoyed your experience here. In a few moments, we're going to talk to our new champion, I hope, Paco Wong. But, Chaz, for you, having been alongside me all the way through the championship in the Europe, the NALA, and now the APAC finals, takeaways from this year from you on a personal level and what you've seen and experienced?
Well, it's opened my eyes to a number of drivers in the category and on a set of Corsa Competizione that I hadn't heard of before, but will certainly be keeping an eye on going forward because that's what this competition does. I think it was the end of the European competition, we were talking about there was a driver I don't want to highlight it, but I think they retaliated in a race and it didn't look great, or there was a certain rejoin or something that didn't show a great strong mental capability. And even if you were one of the teams at the very top of these sorts of competitions, even if it's not a factory team, just a very, very high-end sim racing team, they may be watching as well and thinking, oh, well, we like that driver, they could end up having a career with us or, getting into really top-end competitions with us. You still have to be on your best behaviour, whether you're in second place or whether you're in 16th. And there's still that added pressure on drivers to still showcase their talents. And I think this has been such a great format to showcase said talents as well. It really has brought a lot of great names to the fore. And I really look forward to seeing whether we can do it all again and obviously what batch of drivers we'll get next time round, because these lot were just phenomenal. It was really intense racing, and it was so close at the same time that there was just milliseconds between them at the best of times. So, yeah, it was really just thoroughly wholesome racing that showed great talent. What about you?
I think you've put that really, really well. And for me, I'm going to kind of not answer the question, but change it slightly, even though I asked the question. Not so much what I'm taking away from what's happened, but what I hope happens going forward, that this inspires the next wave of drivers that are not professionals, that are not driving for esports teams or manufacturers, that have seen this competition and thought, I'd like a part of that one.
Yeah.
I think that I can take my talent and my hobby to the next level to hope to become a professional paid works esport drivers, driving top level competitions and seeing that there are opportunities for people like that to participate in championships like this, in the Real Race Super Trofeo Esports. So for me, I'm more hoping that this is a catalyst for yet more new and exciting names to come and amuse and entertain us, and hopefully, for their case, Chaz, act as a launch pad and a stepping stone, either to a drive with the Automobile Lamborghini esports team or other avenues that get them into the wonderful sports that we call sim racing. So I'm just hearing in my ear from our producer, Steve Proudley, that we've got our race winner and our champion, Pak Ho Wong. Congratulations on winning the regional final of the real race. How do you feel? Pak Ho Wong, can you hear us, sir? Pak Ho Wong, can you hear us? I don't think he can quite hear us yet, so just getting the connectivity issues sorted, and then we will very, very quickly be talking to our regional final winner. So I'll come back to you for a moment, Charles, and ask you, how's he feeling? He's happy. Well,
he's speechless by the look of it, Paul. Absolutely speechless. But to be honest, he's been so in control of the whole night, really. He's just been so cool, calm, and collected. It's just been a joy to watch, and it's been a driver in their element, that can just churn out these amazing lap times and results with minimal drama. And that's what really makes a great driver, especially in the sim as well, where we always mention the fact that we've got less to go from, less feedback in terms of what the cars are doing, rather than get the feel of the car through your backside or the actual physical G-forces of what the car is doing. You have to tune yourself in to look and recognize visually and audibly when the car is rotating more than you're asking it to, or when it's not. And, work it both ways. You get the feedback through the wheel and the wheel alone, through your hands rather than through your torso, through your backside, Being able to do that at this sort of level as drivers at this level, against each other, is just remarkable. And he's shown that with such composure tonight. He's not overstepped the mark. He's not overdone it and, looked flustered at all, even when he fell back into second place in the first race.
And I think that's the big thing, isn't it? It's the composure is the word to take away for the performance of Pak Ho Wong. Lightning quick. And I don't want to undersell the fact of how incredibly rapid that driver is. But what's impressed me is, I don't want to say it's easy because I can't do it, but there's a lot of very fast drivers. That's not the unique selling point of a driver in 2023 is lightning speed, because there's a whole army of drivers that are lightning quick. It's everything that comes around it that makes the full package, isn't it? And in fact, right, speaking of which, I'm hearing from Steve again that we now have our new champion, Pak Ho Wong. Congratulations on winning the regional final. How do you feel?
It's a bit unreal because I didn't expect I can win this event because lots of strong players. Yeah. So I didn't expect that. It's a bit surprised.
Your performance was incredible. Dominated qualifying for race 2, and then almost made it look easy in the race. How difficult was it to deliver under that kind of pressure?
It's a bit difficult because I know that because for race 1 I only got position 3, so if I have to win this event then I must qualify pole. That's why I only do 1 hour lap and one hot lap instead of the normal procedure, which is a bit hard for me.
Well, that was very successful. And then the race. Talk to me about your race. How did it go from your point of view?
From turn 1 is quite okay. I mean, and Zachary Smith is behind me, and then I saw Carsley is catching up so fast. I was like, oh, Zachary Smith, please be faster, because only if he finish in P2 then I've got the chance to win, and luckily he can hang on there. So I would like to say thank you to Zachary.
Fantastic. And from you personally, what's your experience in sim racing? Because this is a big opportunity joining Lamborghini. Have you got any expectations, any excitement about what the future's going to hold after winning this championship?
I'm not sure what to expect because I'm not quite sure after joining the team what should I do or what are the expectations that but I'm hoping I can learn something from the greatest. Yeah.
Well, you've had an incredible season. Well, 2 races, should I say, mini season.
Yeah.
An exceptional performance. Is there anything you want to say to friends, family, teammates, people who supported you, the organisers, to get to this point?
Yeah. I've got a lot of help from the other people like Luke Whitehead and maybe from my team, Set Challenger and the West Competition Racing. They also helped me a lot. Without them, I don't think I can be winning in this event.
Well, Pak Ho Wong, you drove like the true champion that you are. So massive congratulations from us. That was a beautiful performance. Go and celebrate and get ready for the next stage of what should be a very exciting career. We look forward to seeing you again.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Brilliant stuff. That is our champion. Almost a little bit lost for words there, Chaz Draycott, because I don't think it's sunk in for him yet, but that's pretty much a life-changing moment that he's just delivered.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's so wholesome to see when drivers really don't expect it. They're modest about it because how often have we both commentated on sim racing competitions where a driver will win an amazing race, a massive event. They'll cross the line stone-faced, completely stone-faced with no emotion. You think, just smile, be happy, realize what you've done. But when you get to a certain level like this, the drivers, sometimes they know that they can do it. Other times they sort of don't come into a meeting expecting it. So it's great to see that side of the emotion there from Pak Ho Wong. And yeah, wonderful interview as well. Really nice to hear from him and a very deserving champion indeed, I'd say, Paul. But what another fantastic race from this epic competition. It's been great to be a part of it again.
Yeah, could not agree with you more. It's been an incredible season in the European region, in the NALA region that we had just last week, and then today in the APAC region. I've got to offer my sincere thanks to Lamborghini for putting this championship on, to AK Esports for delivering this championship. It's a great team behind the scenes that bring these things into the forefront and possible, to all the drivers, to everybody involved that's participated, to that man, Chaz Draycott, alongside me, and from myself, Paul Jeffrey, to all you out there that have followed us and been with us and supported us and criticised. We love you all. We thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you all again. So from us to you, much love and bye-bye.